Very effective. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tempe City Council special meeting at the Harry E. Mitchell Government Center. Item number 1 is called to order. Members of the public who attend the meeting physically are asked to maintain distance between other parties, and masks are optional for all attendees per City of Tempe policy. Alternatively, members of the public may attend the meeting virtually through Cisco WebEx events by visiting tempe.gov/councilmeetinginfo for more information. Council meetings can also be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Next is item number 2 here. The following agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption were read and introduced on November 22nd, 2022, and votes on these items will be taken tonight. The first item under the section is 2A, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt a resolution authorizing a general plan projected land use map amendment from commercial to mixed use for approximately 34.4 acres, a general plan projected density map amendment from no density to high density urban core, which is more than 65 dwelling units per acre, for approximately 34.4 acres, to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from RSOD, from R16 RSOD and GID RSOD GIOD to MU4 RSOD for approximately 46.26 acres, and a planned area development overlay to establish development standards for Tempe Entertainment District, located on 53 South Priest Drive, consisting of varying heights of up to 129 feet, 2,100 dwelling units, and commercial, consisting of a multi-purpose entertainment facility, retail, restaurant, hotel, and office uses. The applicant is Snell and Wilmer. This resolution, I just want to note for the crowd and for the council, does for a general plan amendment, it needs at least a 2/3 majority vote of the council. That would be 5 out of 6 of us who are here currently. I know Councilmember DeBar will be here a little bit as well in the evening, but I know he's going to be virtual for a portion of the meeting. So we will need 5 votes on this one for it to pass. So the property address, 53 South Priest Drive, has been corrected in the resolution. Just wanted to note that as well for transparency. This address was correctly stated on the agenda as well as the staff report. So I will look right now to Nick Wood from Snell and Wilmer, if you'd like to give a presentation on this item.
Mayor, members of the council, Nick Wood, Snell and Wilmer, 1 East Washington. Damn, it's nice to be here. I gave a presentation last week. I think with your permission, Mayor, I'll forego that. I did want to make one change. After meeting with the airport, we have agreed to reduce the density that's permitted under the zoning from, we've applied for 2,100, and we're going to reduce that to 1,995.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Wood. I do know as well, just for the audience here and for the council, I know that Ryan LeBake, our Deputy Planning Director, will be up as well, and he's going to talk more about the general plan amendment and specifically what that entails. So just from a transparency standpoint, wanted to let people know that that will be discussed later on in tonight's agenda. So does anyone on the council have any comments or questions for Mr. Wood on this item? Okay. Next up, does council want a presentation from city staff on this item? I think we will. Let's see, is Ryan, can I see him right here? There we go. So Ryan LeBake, who's our Deputy Community Development Director for Planning, he can talk a little bit about the general plan amendment for transparency purposes, just so people know what the council will be voting on tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Again, you have identified this request for you tonight, which is item 2A. So to go over the summary of the items that entail regarding the general plan and zoning map amendment requests, we have a GP land use map amendment and projected density map amendment. We also have a zoning map amendment and the planned area development overlay, which basically establishes those development standard rights for the project site you see in the image here. So again, focusing on the general plan element, we currently have a projected land use of commercial land use. The proposed land use change includes about approximately 34 acres to mixed use projected land use. And then with the images on your right, you have a current density projection of no density. The project proposes a density of urban core high density, which is greater than 65 dwelling units per acre depicted on this map. So what's excluded from that area specifically is Site 1, which includes the multipurpose entertainment facility. The zoning map amendment, as you see today, includes 2 different zoning districts, General Industrial, GID, R16, which is a single-family zoning designation, and 2 different overlay zoning districts on the property. The request will combine all those different zoning districts into an MU4 with the established PAD standards. The applicant has previously provided some presentation on this item, but here's the aggregate information provided in the project scope: 1,995 dwelling units, up to 500 hotel rooms, building area approximately 4.2 million square feet, with lot coverage at 95%. And there are varying building heights from each phase in each site plan, but the maximum building height proposed will be 129 feet. Establishing setbacks, landscape area, vehicle parking requirements, and bicycle parking for the project site. Here is a depiction of the site plan shown in phase 1 and phase 2 based on the planned remediation area for phase 1, and then each site designation for building area, site 1, site 2, will have incremental phases that will then have to come back to you all for design review approval of each of these building phases at a future to be determined meeting date. Again, we've had neighborhood meetings on the request, well attended, public attendance of 35 people. We've had public input at the Development Review Commission as well as the City Council meeting first hearing on this request. And we also have a staff recommendation of approval for the request. The DRC recommended approval, 7-0 vote with 18 total conditions, 15 of which are unique conditions. I'll need to note too as well, since Nick Wood has identified that they're willing to reduce the total number of dwelling units on the project. So condition number 4 stated in here will need to be amended to be reread into the record that 2,100 dwelling units will now read 1,995 dwelling units. If the council has any questions from staff at this time, I'd be happy to answer any.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Council members, any comments or questions for Mr. LeVesque? All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Next up, I know from a speaker standpoint, we have more staff. I believe it's going to be Marilyn DeRosa or Kathy Hollow or Julian Dresang, who's going to come up and give a presentation regarding traffic.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Julian Dresang, Deputy Engineering and Transportation Director, and I'm joined this evening by Kathy Hollow, our City Traffic Engineer. This project, like any development project, is required to submit a traffic impact study, and I believe last week Dawn Cartier was able to do a short presentation. Her team put together the traffic impact study for this project. And the purpose of that study is really to understand the existing traffic conditions and then also what the site-generated traffic conditions will be if the development moves forward, to get an idea of long-term what the traffic might be like in the future. And so when you put those two together, the existing traffic with growth as well as the site-generated traffic, combining those together, we get a good idea of the projection of what we can expect. The projected traffic condition is then used to be able to mitigate what future traffic conditions might be and our ability to then manage traffic. And I think that's a really important point to be made, is that our job will be then to manage that traffic at that point. We all know that the development will add additional traffic. I don't think that is in question here. The question is then, how can we manage that traffic? And we have a history of doing that. This wouldn't be the first large sporting event that we dealt with. We've had the Arizona Cardinals here, ASU football games, basketball games, other large events. And so we plan on mitigating traffic using techniques like technology, working with staff, police department and such. So staffing those, barricading, and also providing transportation alternatives. So we know that if we can take some of that traffic off the street and use shuttles and buses and transit, bicycles, pedestrians, scooters, we have all these great alternatives, we can reduce that traffic demand. So Kathy and I are now going to share some key findings and strategies that our team has identified in reviewing the traffic impact study. Next slide.
Clicker.
Oh, thank you. So the project, as Ryan had mentioned, is broken up into phases. Phase 1A and 1B were analyzed together for future year 2025 when doing the analysis. And then Phase 2A and 2B were analyzed for the 2030 year. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Hollow to discuss specific findings from the traffic impact study.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Happy to be here and present what has been presented to us by the consultant team for the traffic impact study, draft traffic impact study. So to start with, we've talked about the traffic, how much traffic is it really going to generate? Opening year with phase 1, as Julian said, this phase 1 and phase 2, the numbers are here, about over 10,000 on a daily basis. The important thing is looking at what we look at is the peak hour, because that's when the traffic's most concentrated. When phase 2 goes into effect, it'll be the build-out year 2030. The daily trips are expected to jump to an additional 25,000. And during a special event, there'll be another almost 8,000 trips on top of that on a daily basis. Another thing to point out here is that even though the event scenario adds to the day, it occurs at a different time, right? The game will be at 7 or 7:30 at night. By then, our evening peak is over. Hopefully the two do not collide, and we should be able to, as Julian said, manage traffic. The development is proposing 5 access points. You might be able to see them on your map. There's one that'll be right in, right out on the north side of the project on Priest Drive. Access B is about halfway down the project on Priest Drive, and it will be signalized or need to be signalized with this development. Access C will be a right-in, right-out only driveway. And then access D is a signalized intersection, which is being designed right now as part of the Carvana development. And then there's one more driveway proposed to the east side of the development at what is called access E. Now, this, as Julian said, we take a look at what's out there today, and then the site traffic is added to this and analyzed to see how things are going to be impacted. So this is kind of just a snapshot of what's out there today. You see the highest volumes are on Priest Drive, around the 202, as it collects all the traffic trying to get on and off the freeway, and it kind of dissipates as it goes south into the city. None of the other streets get even approach those kind of numbers. So. And to kind of sum up with the findings that were presented in the study, all the intersections are expected to operate at an acceptable level of service with mitigation, except Priest Drive and Loop 202 for the eastbound ramp, and Priest Drive and Liberty Way. And the mitigation measures that they proposed are the signalization of Priest Drive and Liberty, which I mentioned, and then adjustments to signal timing. Average delay is approximately 30 to 55 seconds per vehicle, though some movements may have delay over 55 seconds in the build-out scenario in the peak hours only. And then the key strategies and mitigation measures that they presented, to sum up here, they said there's infrastructure improvements that are identified in the study that will have to be built, implementation of the transportation demands management strategies, which includes enhancements to transit routes, 48 and 56, and the extension of Orbit Venus, and then implementation of strategies to limit the impact of event traffic into the adjacent neighborhoods like Sunset Riverside to the south. So, and then we'll continue to implement event strategies as the events occur and we see how traffic is operating. So that'll be an ongoing thing. We'll do active traffic management as the events are happening. So with that, I think that concludes our presentation, unless you have anything else to say.
If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, the light rail goes right by there on Washington, and I'm just wondering, have we looked at like people movers or anything like that from that area for the light rail to the stadium?
So the study references shuttles going from the site to both light rail stations, the one up at Priest and Washington and the one over at 3rd and Mill. So it has 2 sets of shuttles that they're proposing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Anyone else, council, comments or questions? I guess my very kind of simple question, I guess sort of boiling a lot of this down, I mean, we all know that, we've got ASU here, that's the largest public university in the country. We are pretty much the hotbed in the region for Class A office, and there is a lot of traffic kind of in and around the downtown, and residents have raised that as a concern. In your professional opinion, do you feel like we have the ability to manage the traffic that would come in as a result of this development? And can we put in mitigation standards that would actually help to make sure that traffic continues to move about the city at an acceptable level?
Well, from what I've seen in the study, I do think that it can be mitigated. I think that the site being where it is off on the west side of the city, where there's not the same kind of development as there is around campus, gives us some opportunities to be able to manage traffic and to get them to get people in and out of the site without hopefully without too much delay. So
Yeah, and I think that we've shown from previous events that we can find mitigation tools to
yes.
handle that. We have a lot of technology that we've invested in to manage traffic. And also, I think an important part of this is where the traffic is. And so I think that we can do a good job of maintaining traffic on the freeways, on the arterials, and keeping traffic out of the neighborhoods where I think probably a lot of the concern is. And so we will definitely, if this is to move forward, work with those neighborhoods to make sure that traffic is mitigated, and that and part of that is dealing with parking, dealing with ingress and egress, and managing that. So having a plan in place, but with those tools, similar to what we do with football games, similar to what we do with others, working with our police officers and their team, working with our barricading staff, and having a plan in place to move that traffic is going to be key.
And if I could just add one more thing, something that we're pretty proud of in the department is we actually are putting in an adaptive signal system, and it includes pre-strive as part of the system. So it's part of a grant we got from ADOT for the mitigating the curve traffic, and it includes pre-strive. So hopefully that will be a key component to helping move traffic too.
Sounds good. Thank you. Vice Mayor Adams?
Could you explain that to folks that aren't in the
Sure,
industry?
sure. So
Thank you.
sorry about that. Adaptive traffic signals have detection on for every movement that occurs at the intersection. So the signal sees where the traffic is and changes its time depending on the demand on each leg of the intersection. So
Thank you for
does that
the
help? Yeah,
explanation.
okay,
Yes,
great.
yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, anyone else from council, further comments or questions for Kathy or Julian?
Thank you so much for your time.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Appreciate it. So what I'm going to do in this situation, there are 3 separate votes this evening on 3 sort of separate issues, but I want to make sure, I was trying to think in my head before coming down here how I wanted to handle the public comment. But what I think I'd like to do is try to take all of the public comment now, just to make sure that the council has an opportunity to hear from members of the public prior to any of the 3 votes. I want to make sure that that someone doesn't speak during the 3rd vote and say, wait a minute, my question or my concern had to do with the general plan amendment or the zoning. So I'd like to see if we can actually take the speakers this evening. Plus, there might be people who want to remain for the entire meeting, and there might be folks who just might want to get their comment and then head home. So I want to make sure that you're not sitting here for the full length of the meeting if that's not what you choose to do. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and do the public comment now. I've got a total of 39 comment cards this evening. And I'm basically going to take these in the order that I received them. The first speaker this evening is Chad Makowski. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council. Good to see you this evening.
Yeah, thank you. Mayors, members of council, I'm Chad Makowski. I'm a 32-year professional in the aviation industry, and I'm currently the Director of Aviation at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Phoenix Sky Harbor continues to be among the busiest airports in the world, and in 2021, we were in fact surprising to many, the busiest 3-runway airport in the world for takeoffs and landings. We serve our community, our region, and the state of Arizona by driving a $38 billion economic impact on an annual basis, which supports tourism, trade, and travel, according to a study that was completed by ASU's W.P. Carey School of Business. We're among the largest employment hubs in the state, supporting more than 57,000 jobs and a $13 billion annual payroll. And this year alone, we will have activated more than $1 billion of new infrastructure to support our customers and to better serve our growing community. Sky Harbor, in my opinion, is a part of the fabric of our community. With that kind of responsibility, I'm sure you can appreciate I don't take my job and my responsibilities lightly. I'm responsible for not only ensuring the smooth operation of the airport on a day-to-day basis, but also for ensuring that our airport ecosystem can continue to grow, serve, and support our shared community for generations to come. As I shared back in the June 2nd Tempe Council meeting, this proposed development does sit directly underneath the converging flight paths of two of our busiest departure runways at Sky Harbor. As a federally obligated airport sponsor, and because of the 1994 intergovernmental agreement between our two cities, I continue to object to adding the 1,995 residential units in the 1.2 square mile high noise contour. That said, Mayor Woods, I want to thank you for meeting with me and my team several times over the last few weeks to see if we could find a way to amicably address our differences. While it was always apparent to me, and rightly so, that your priority was first and foremost to represent and support the citizens of Tempe, I very much appreciated your leadership, your sincerity, and your openness to hearing out our concerns. You rightly deserve credit for helping to develop a viable path to ensure that Tempe continues to support the operations and development of the airport while we work towards productively and fully resolving our differences with regard to the intergovernmental agreement. I also very much appreciate the support and professionalism of your dedicated city staff as they worked with the developer to negotiate and incorporate a number of provisions in the development and disposition agreement to further mitigate the risks associated with this development. I also want to acknowledge Arizona Coyote's CEO, Javier Gutierrez, and their land use attorney, Nick Wood. Over the last year and a half, I think it's fair to say that we have disagreed on many, many issues. However, I believe a true test of character is revealed not by how entrenched we get in our respective positions, but rather how we come together to find common ground when times actually get tough. The added protections offered here today should not only help to mitigate expected impacts to Sky Harbor Airport, but if they are fully implemented, we think that actually we'll be in a good place to be able to continue to develop our airport. And this frankly would not have been possible without their cooperation as we went through this. So Mayor and council members, a positive and productive relationship between Tempe, Sky Harbor, and the city of Phoenix has been and continues to be incredibly important to us. Our relationship long predates the development proposal that you're hearing tonight and will endure long after this decision is made. I look forward to working through the few of the remaining issues that we will continue to work on in the coming weeks and months. And I wish you the best as you make this important decision for your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bukowski. I wanted to say, too, thank you very much for coming this evening, and thank you for your professionalism and your work as well. I appreciate the fact that anytime we've talked about meeting, you've always been very available to meet. And anytime we've even wanted to have a conversation, even on an early Sunday morning before both of us have gotten our workouts in, we've had the opportunity to talk. And so I appreciate your advocacy on behalf of Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, and definitely look forward to the continuing good relationship between both of our cities. And we recognize the airport's a huge economic revenue generator for our region and for the city of Tempe as well. So we want to make sure that we're doing things that that the region continues to cooperate in a really positive way moving forward. And I just appreciate your willingness to come forward this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Jacob Shepard. Is Jacob Shepard here? Okay. The next speaker I have is Monica Villalobos.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Mayor Woods, and the entire City Council. My name is Monica Villalobos. I serve as President and CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We are celebrating our 75th anniversary next year. We've been in Arizona since 1948, helping small businesses gain access to contracts, financing, and job creation. We also represent many small businesses, many minority-owned businesses, about 1,000 in membership now. We do know that Arizona is 30% Hispanic, and the fastest growing business segment is Latino-owned businesses. And so it is my honor to be in front of you today. I am so incredibly pleased. In June, I had mentioned that I've worked with your city, I've worked with the city of Phoenix, I've worked with the Coyotes, and there was never any doubt in my mind that you would all come to a great agreement that would serve the people of Arizona. Today, I want to vouch for the corporate citizenship of the Arizona Coyotes under the leadership of its owner, Alex Morello, as well as its president, Javier Gutierrez. I can tell you from the moment that they came into Arizona, they have contributed not only financially to many organizations, but have been amazing philanthropic supporters and have spent tens of thousands with different organizations to help the people of Arizona. Their diversity is really a staple in the industry. There are many firsts at the Coyotes: the first Hispanic owner, first Hispanic president, the first Hispanic female NHL marketing executive. And so diversity really is at the forefront of the Coyotes organization. And I think they will bring that to the city of Tempe as well. And finally, just the economic growth. I think that the Coyotes, not only in their philanthropy, but in their business, have shown their contributions to the economic growth of Arizona, and the sheer dollar amounts uh, have been significant for this particular project that have been pledged. So with that, thank you all for your service. Really appreciate the time, and I cannot think of a better corporate citizen than the Arizona Coyotes for the city of Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villalobos. Really appreciate it. The next speaker I have in the queue is Neil Giuliano, or should I say Mayor Giuliano. Good to see you, sir. Please state your name and place of residence for the
Neil
record. You have 3
Giuliano,
minutes.
21 East 13th Street, Tempe, Arizona, 48-year resident. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I really just wanted to stand up and say thank you. Thank you for continuing the vision of the river bottom in Tempe. Thank you for putting an RFP out for this piece of land. This is a tough piece of land, as you all know, and you have been able to work on a proposal that will, I believe, meet the moment. And what I mean by that is this is really transformative for the city from an economic standpoint, from a revenue standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint, and for meeting the goals and visions that a lot of us had a long time ago. 25 years ago, at a folding table here with a green tablecloth on it, we weren't fancy back then, I sat there 25 years ago and signed the documents to create the Tempe Town Lake. And even on the night that we did that, and I say this because I know how these meetings go, there were people who said, don't build a lake. It's a bad idea. It's going to be too much traffic, too much congestion. No one is going to want to work there. The jobs aren't good enough. And certainly no one's going to really want to ever do anything near a fake lake in the middle of the desert. Well, we know how that worked out. And I think you have another meet the moment opportunity to do something really tremendous. And you've gone through all the evaluation, all of the discernment, all of the vetting of the partnership that you'll be working with. And no project is ever going to be perfect, and no project will be exactly the way you envision it from when you first think you want it to happen. But you have all the ingredients here. You have all of the ingredients here with a strong partner to meet this moment for moving forward with what we talked about many years ago with this end of the river bottom and this part of Rio Salado. So thank you for keeping it moving. Thank you for making it happen. These things don't happen unless a group of community leaders elected by the citizens like yourselves don't sit around and talk about what the vision might be able to be, and can we do this, and who might do this, and we all know that's a long process. Tonight's the night to meet that moment and to move it forward. And you'll hear people who will not be in favor of it. That's fine. That's part of the process. We all know that. They love Tempe the way we love Tempe, the way I love Tempe. But you have the opportunity to meet the moment. And I urge you to do that, and I urge you to move this forward. And I'm happy to help any way. I know it's not the end of the story tonight. There's other things that we're going to have to do in the community. And I'll be happy to help you in any way that I can. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is David Adame, who I believe is virtual this evening.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mayor and Council. I'm calling you from Mexico City, and I'm calling you from here because I felt it was very important for me to add my comments into this wonderful project, because this project is beyond just development and numbers. This is something that's huge for the Latino community. It's a symbol of our community growing, as we saw in the last elections, a record turnout of Latino voters coming out this last election. And this is a project that our Latino community is looking at and saying, we've arrived. We've arrived that we can be, the first NHL ownership, first NHL president. And I know here speaking in Mexico City, they've been making the rounds, just like the Cardinals. They love to have the Coyotes come and play a game here because I see the commissioner there. But the other thing I'd like to say is, from a community leadership standpoint, Javier Gutierrez, from day one, came running. He started working with all the economic councils, including the one that our former mayor leads, and has been very involved, and including the Canadian Business Association, which believe it or not, Chicanos por la Causa is a member of that too, because we have employees in Canada. But this is something that that's important for the community. If you go to any of their games, there's always a nonprofit or charity being highlighted by being supported by this organization. And finally, from a role model, owner Alex Morello, he's a role model. He's people look at as that American dream, that rags to riches from starting his small businesses and growing. But more importantly, for hockey fans, he stabilized the team. As people remember, it was very unstable for the last several years. And finally, we have an owner that's making the investment. I've been proud of the draft picks they've been making. We know this team's going to get stronger as they go. And so, with all that, I think we couldn't have a better partner and can change an area of the city of Tempe. And by the way, for the record, I do not live in Tempe, but my organization, Chicanos por la Causa, of which I'm the president, has over 440 units of housing in Tempe. We made millions and millions of PPP loans during the pandemic, and we've made millions and millions of scholarships to students attending Arizona State University. So I'll end it with that, but I'm fully behind this support and support this project. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dame. Really appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Colin Diaz. Please come forward and state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, as well as esteemed council. My name is Colin Diaz. I have the honor of serving as President and CEO of the Tempe Chamber, and I'm going to throw this plug in there as well. As of earlier this month, I'm a proud Tempe resident as well. So happy to be here speaking in front of you, and thank you for the time. I just want to start by applauding you all here on council, as well as the countless city staff that have been working through this process for the Tempe Entertainment District, from the RFP to the application, the review process, as well as working with Bluebird Development. It's obviously a huge opportunity and project with great potential for the city of Tempe. As a chamber, we felt it was important to weigh in on the project as well, but this was not something we wanted to do lightly, so we formed an ad hoc subcommittee that met multiple times over the course of 8 weeks. We met with the developer, multiple stakeholders, and spent several weeks looking at all the public-facing documents and information, as well as answering and asking questions throughout the process. And as a result, a recommendation was made to our board of directors, which they codified to support the project. And so I'm here today speaking in favor of the project and encouraging you all to unanimously support it. One thing that I did want to add, I'm glad that I didn't go right after the mayor. It's never good to go after a mayor, but what he mentioned about kind of the timing and the moment. If you think about Tempe Town Lake, I was at an economic development meeting for the region not too long ago, and they cited that next to the Grand Canyon, the second highest attraction in the state of Arizona is Tempe Town Lake. When you think about the things that are on the lake, I think every one of you will say that we're proud of what's there now, but there's an opportunity for additional attraction as well as additional activation. This project being on the west end of that has an opportunity to do that. So it literally checks a lot of boxes. You're remediating prime land that obviously hasn't been up until now, bringing new streams of revenue into the city, creating thousands of jobs, I think just around almost 7,000, addressing housing challenges, establishing multi-use facilities, which will bring folks from all over the community and outside of the region. And additionally, there'll be opportunities for new streams of revenue. And I can go into the ownership group that I've had an opportunity to work with, as well as Javier Gutierrez and the team since they've been in Tempe, and their partnership with nonprofits here in the community, the chamber as well. And to me, doing well by doing good matters, and being able to partner, and that's something that I think they're committed to doing moving forward. So again, speaking in strong support, encourage you all to vote to support the project. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Robin Reed. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Robin Reed. I live at 33228 North 60th Way in Scottsdale. My corporate offices are in Phoenix. And as the president and CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona, we serve small businesses throughout the valley, with a number of them here in Phoenix. I just want to touch on 3 main points of why we're in support of the Tempe Entertainment District and the work that the Coyotes intend to do. The first is the financial impact. We've all read the numbers, gone over them. Interestingly, of my 3 points, each one of them could stand on their own, but we'll go through them one at a time. This is a $2.1 billion self-funded program. Most cities in this country would stop right there and say yes, but they really stacked the deck on this one. Thousands of permanent jobs, $225 million in taxes slated for the city of Tempe, $224 million in tax revenue for the county of Maricopa, $1 billion in benefit to the state of Arizona. In fact, I think I read that the total overall impact would be over $13 billion for this project. But let's look at the social impact. They want to build a community skating rink. And I know that seems kind of simple, like here, let's start another business. But if you've had a chance to speak with Javier and you understand where his heart is and where the passion is for this work, the reason he wants a community skating rink is so that young people of all races, all genders, all orientations can learn to love the sport of hockey. That's vitally important as we move forward because we know there's not a lot of minority representation in the sport. The other benefit is that it dovetails perfectly with their existing plan to increase management and leadership among minorities within the NHL. They took a very bold step and were the first ones to show their intent. So this really works hand in hand with that. They're turning a landfill into a landmark. I actually love that saying, but that's really true. And then on the public and charitable impact, I recently met with the Chief Purpose and Vision Officer for the Morello Group. And it was just, all I wanted was an authentic conversation. I didn't want a bunch of catchphrases and buzzwords, and I got what I asked for. I got a very straightforward conversation, and I learned that this organization has already built into their strategy how they're going to be supportive of programs and communities and projects. For example, they've already got funds slated to support affordable housing, education, first responders, public arts, public transportation, and here's why that's so important. I was recently the chair of the subcommittee and part of the executive committee for the City of Phoenix General Obligation Bond, and every one of those issues that I just named were hugely important. The fact that we have a benefactor that's going to support that is a godsend. This is an easy decision, and I encourage the city to move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Jim Hayden. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Hayden. I live at 120 East Rio Salado Parkway. So my residence is right on the corner of Rio Salado Parkway and right on the river bottom. As Neil said, the fake lake I live on. I live in the little glass area right on the very corner where it stands today. So I'm an affected resident, and this is a very sentimental project. It means a lot to our family, what we do for our community. And we encourage you to take the next step forward to support our partner, what it means to the community as a whole. You hear from a lot of people that I'm going to call naysayers, What does it mean to be the boisterous minority? But my advice is to pay attention to the silent majority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Appreciate it. Next speaker I have is Kenneth Manuel. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Kenneth Manuel. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm a lifelong resident of Arizona, 51 years. It's an honor to be here today to speak before you all. I want to speak from a business standpoint. Gila River Resorts and Casinos are proud partners with the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes have been an amazing partner since day one. We operate 3 casinos in the Valley. As the Chief Executive Officer, I've been employed with Gila River Resorts and Casinos for 28 years. When we first opened our casinos in 1994, I was one of the original employees. As a resident of Arizona, it's been amazing to see the growth, not only in the Valley, but the surrounding communities as well. I'm speaking today from the business standpoint. The Arizona Coyotes are an amazing business partner. Mr. Marullo, Javier, the entire team have been amazing to work with. Class act from day one, professional. Their principles, their business morals are a lot of what we employ also at Gila River. Their outreach to the surrounding communities, their philanthropic arm have been genuine. We enjoy working with them on a daily basis. The economic impact of this project, in our view, from the business standpoint, makes total sense. They have consistently partnered with different groups throughout the Valley. Even in the summertime, that was the first time I got to meet Javier when he first came to Arizona with his team. One of his first meetings was with us, and he got introduced to our summer heat. It was admirable, and just as you see him today in his suit and tie is exactly what he was wearing the day that I met him. I think it was probably 110 degrees in July. Council members, Mayor, I'd stand here before you just to, in support of their development, their proposal, and it's an honor to be here today, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Dominic Orozco. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Dominic Orozco, Phoenix, Arizona. President and CMO of Gila River Resorts and Casinos. We currently operate 3 casinos, as you just heard, soon to be 4 in the Arizona market. I possess over 21 years of gaming and hospitality in multiple jurisdictions, and happy to say that Phoenix is my home now for 8 years now. We have worked with the Coyotes, trusted partners, for over 15 years. And just recently, we signed a new 3-year deal under the direction of Javier Gutierrez. We also feature the first Native American patch on an NHL jersey, which is the first of its kind. This is the mind genius behind Javier and his group and what they bring to the table and offer businesses like ours. They are trusted partners in helping to deliver us a sporting entertainment to over 7 million visitors that we see in our casinos each year. They also help our economic growth for over 3,000 employees that work here at Gila River. We are proud and honored of the brand, the logo, everything that the Arizona Coyotes stand for. We put it in our rooms, we put it on our clothing, we put it on our table games, we also put it on the side of our building. That's how much we believe in what they offer. I encourage you to vote yes, so we can continue our Arizona Coyotes historic trusted partnership in Tempe. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Gary Bettman. Good evening, Commissioner. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. And if anyone ever asks if I definitely read the cards in order, you know when the NHL Commissioner is like my 10th or 11th card, I'm clearly reading the cards in the order that I received them. So, Commissioner, good to see you this evening.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm honored to be here with you this evening, and thank you for your time and attention on what we think is a vitally important matter, not just for the Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes, but for Tempe. I have a little bit of experience with the Coyotes. I've been commissioner for 30 years, which is longer than the club has been here in Arizona. And it's been an interesting ride. I don't think anybody can doubt our support, NHL support, for a team in Arizona, for the Coyotes, because we were involved in litigation to keep the team from moving. We actually owned the team for a while and operated it here. And the team is playing with our support in a temporary facility, which is quite unusual at the major league level. And I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Arizona State University for sharing Mullet Arena on a temporary basis with the Coyotes. But also in that regard, it shows Alex Morello's and the Coyotes' commitment to Arizona and their passion for and commitment to seeing this project go forward, because Mr. Morello has spent probably $30 million in monies that had to have been spent in order to make Mullet Arena habitable for the Coyotes on a temporary basis. And without that type of commitment, we wouldn't be here tonight. Alex Morello, the Coyotes, Javier Gutierrez, they have the league's support. We have confidence in them. We know that they have a passion, not just for hockey, but for Arizona and for this project. We are confident that Mr. Morello has the wherewithal to complete this project. It's a private funded project, as you know, and the club's prepared, if that's not enough of a demonstration of commitment to the community, to execute a 30-year non-relocation agreement. All of things that say this club wants to be here, and frankly, the NHL wants the club to be here. The impact of projects like this we've seen all over North America. Yes, they're economic engines, but arenas and entertainment districts change the quality of life in a community, creates a win-win. It actually gives a community an opportunity not just to have events and bring people together, but it also puts you on the world stage, particularly when you have one of the 4 major professional leagues playing regularly in an arena and media from all over the world. And people, tourists, fans, follow their teams on the road, and they'll be here as well. Can I keep going a little bit?
Give it another 30 seconds, yeah. Sure.
Okay, so, thank you. And it gives an opportunity for our game to be developed at all the levels, particularly for young people, instilling the values of our game, which is leadership, teamwork, physical fitness, hard work, and we think that's all important. And as I said, it will shine a light on Tempe. We will bring league events here, whether it's an all-star game or a draft. That is our commitment to you if this project goes forward. We believe this is a win-win. It has our complete support, and we respectfully urge you to support it. We're fully supportive of the process that's been engaged with, and hopefully tonight will be one step closer to taking us to the public referendum, where hopefully the community will have its opportunity to speak. Thank you, and it was great to be here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. The next speaker is Isaiah Jose Chavez. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello, how are you all doing?
Good, good.
My name is Isaiah Chavez. I am from Phoenix, Arizona. You all may remember me from the Arizona Coyotes public hearing on June 2nd, 2022. Well, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember.
No worries.
I am so sorry. That was literally my bad.
No worries. Take your time.
I meant to say, I've been a fan of the Arizona Coyotes for 20 years. And I have some great thoughts on the proposed arena. I am looking forward to visiting the new arena in Tempe. Besides the arena in Tempe, having an entertainment district along with the arena is a very amazing idea that the Coyotes have brought up. I know the Coyotes left the Desert Diamond Arena, but we would like to once again thank the Desert Diamond Arena for 19 years and the city of Glendale for playing hockey. I once again wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
The next speaker I have is Michael Martin. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello, good evening. I'm Michael Martin. I live at 1953 East Coyote Arcos in Tempe, Arizona, 85284. I'm also the president and CEO of the Tempe Tourism Office. So tonight I just want to say that the Tempe Tourism Office is hopeful that City Council will give this opportunity, the opportunity to move forward to the next step. We have full faith that the City Council and City staff will mitigate any issues and concerns involving this proposed development in order to provide the best possible agreement for Tempe residents. As a landlocked city, as you know, development and redevelopment within our borders must be examined carefully with the future in mind. We realize that if built, this complex will be used and enjoyed by local residents. From a tourism perspective, we are always encouraged by developments in Tempe that have the potential to bring additional tourists to Tempe. We recently commissioned our annual economic impact of tourism in Tempe research study reflecting the calendar year 2021. Some few highlights from that. It shows that tourism brought in 3.6 million visitors in 2021, generated over $781 million in direct spending, showed that overnight visitors on average spent $302 per day and per person, and showed that day visitors spent $72 per person. Tourism generated up to $85 million in local and state taxes, and that came from lodging, sales tax, property taxes, those types of things. And also is obviously a big job creator with 1 in 18 jobs in Tempe. This research study is available for Tempe residents and the public at large to view on our website at tempetourism.com under the About Us section. We anticipate that this data for calendar year 2022 will be even stronger as we move further away from the COVID pandemic. Now, I believe that this data from this study is important information to provide to the public because it demonstrates how revenues generated through tourism provide the city of Tempe funding sources to help pay for important quality of life services such as public safety, parks and recreation, and human services. Any development with hospitality component has the potential to generate new visitors to Tempe, thus amplifying the impact of tourism for Tempe. Again, we're hopeful that the City Council will decide to move forward with the next step on this matter so that we can see this through. I also want to say that in my 30 years of being at the Tempe Tourism Office, I've been able to witness some pretty amazing things in Tempe. Super Bowl in '96, I was there when the lakes started filling up, when TCA was opened. But when you look at tourism and it brings people together, if you've never been to Ironman at the finish line at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or at midnight, you don't really understand the power of tourism because those people from around the world who are racing, and you see an 85-year-old person run across the finish line, it's very emotional. So tourism has the ability to really bring people together, and I know that this project, if it does get built, has that potential for Tempe. So I want to congratulate you on the work so far and encourage you to continue working out all the issues so that everybody will be happy in the end. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Tim O'Neill. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Tim O'Neill. I'm the CEO of Goodwill, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and a proud resident of Arizona for on and off for 36 years, 24 years just this last May. So for the past 75 years, Goodwill has been all about this idea of serving the community and this idea of strengthening families, empowering individuals, and building stronger communities. And I have to tell you, with our relationship with the Phoenix Coyotes, it's been nothing short of spectacular. Having a chance to meet Mr. Gutierrez and talk to him about what they thought was important for Arizona, never once talked about hockey. He talked about impact. He talked about sustainability and social change. And when you look at this entertainment district, it's really the best of what can happen around public and private partnerships, and this idea about how we can actually make a community and a state something that can be kind of a beacon for what the United States should look at as development. And so for us, when you think about the fiscal benefits that are out there, it's something really special. Goodwill right now, we have 120 locations that employ 6,000 people. We have 19 million customer transactions a year, and over 1 million items a day are donated to our stores. That is something that we're very proud of, but it's a very small part of what Arizona needs around this idea of social change. And so when you look at what the Coyotes have really talked about through Mr. Gutierrez's leadership, is this idea of an unwavering support of the people of Arizona. He's actually personally attended meetings around homelessness with me, meetings around education with me. Not once did he ever talk about hockey. He talked about Arizona, and he talked about what they thought the responsibility of the Coyotes was to this state. And so in my role, I lead the largest social impact organization in Arizona. We're going to continue to grow. And what I've found over the years is most people, and again, businesses, sports teams, they come to Goodwill and they almost ask us what we can do for them. That may seem surprising, but that's really how it happens. Mr. Gutierrez, in every meeting I've ever been in with him, leaves and says, what can we do for you? What can we do to make Arizona a better place? And I think that's exactly the kind of business, the kind of people, the kind of leadership that Arizona needs and that we should expect. And so we fully, myself and Goodwill, support the Coyotes and Mr. Gutierrez on every effort that they have, and we appreciate your time in listening to us tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Robert Nordman. Thank you very much, sir. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, Council, Mayor. I'm Robert Nordman. I live at 1065 West 1st Street. It's like a 5-minute walk from the proposed site. To start, I want to say that I'd love to see this land developed into something amazing. This looks amazing. I love the idea behind it. I really hate to see it get wasted on just a bunch of boring housing or for it to continue being used as basically an landfill. That desire to see this be turned into something amazing is something that makes me hesitant, but I feel I need to say something that I want you guys to be very careful if you're considering making a long-term relationship with the Coyotes. Last week, Mr. Wood made a point about how when designing the deal, he didn't want it to be one-sided. He didn't want the Coyotes to win big at the expense of Tempe. He wanted to make it, he made it sound like he was doing us a really big favor. But who is he? He is the legal representative for the Coyotes. He works for them. He doesn't represent us. We should ask, why should we trust what he is saying? Why should we trust the Coyotes for that matter? If we look at Glendale, we can see maybe looking at Glendale at the time the Coyotes were in Glendale, we can see how our long-term relationship might be if we were to go into this with them. So why are they moving away from Glendale? Well, from what I can tell, it seems like Glendale terminated the lease with the Coyotes. They didn't want them in their stadium anymore. And, well, who can blame them? After the Coyotes failed to pay, or paid late, $1.3 million in taxes between June 2020 and December 2021, only paying after being threatened with being locked out of the arena. The Coyotes, of course, claim this was the result of an unfortunate human error that's somewhat common in their organization, going back to 2020, when they also failed to pay, or were late to pay some of their team members their bonuses. Or maybe we could look at their overdue payments to ASM Global in the 2019 to 2020 season, and then again in the 2020 to 2021 season. We look at their history and we see a repeated failure to pay their dues on time, and that should tell us something about how much we can trust them. To conclude, I'm not asking you to vote against changing the zoning. I think that would be mixed use is a way better use for this land. But I think we need to be really careful about doing this with the Coyotes. I would urge you to look for other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Ronald Pies, and actually I have a letter that I need to read into the record on behalf of Mr. Pies. So this says, Mayor Woods and members of the City Council, my name is Ronald Pies. I've been a student, property owner, resident, and city administrator in Tempe since 1961. I've also been an elected member of the Kyrene School Board. In all those years, I've never seen a proposal coming before an elected body that disturbs me more. The Tempe City Council must reject this proposal. Unfortunately, my health prevents me from attending the hearings. I respectfully request that this communication be read into the record. I will not go into detail as I've communicated my concerns to you previously. I know that others will be presenting specifics that make this project untenable. My concerns are as follows. 1, Glendale. All that you need to do is look at the Glendale experience, including the fact that an arena was built for this franchise. The economic impact on that community was devastating, causing that city to cut off their relationship with this Coyote owner. 2, financial instability. Previously, former Councilmember Kuby presented a Dun & Bradstreet analysis of this owner and his organization. While there has been criticism of presenting this, the fact is that it is true. 3, airport IGA or intergovernmental agreement. There's an intergovernmental agreement between Tempe and Phoenix that must be complied with for any projects in the proposed site. For the developer to pay for any litigation is totally unacceptable. There must not be litigation. If this project violates the agreement, it must be abandoned. 4, history of taxpayer-supported sports stadiums. Substantial documentation and studies have been provided to the council previously. The fact is that these facilities are not revenue generators. They end up costing taxpayers. Again, check with Glendale. Number 5, gambling. The team's president and CEO explained the significance because this isn't just about hockey or sports. No, it is really about gambling within walking distance of a major university with thousands of young men and women away from home for the first time. I promise that if gambling is removed from this proposal, the developer will skate away. Number 6, finally, if this project is so beneficial, it should be done without tax incentives. The owner is a billionaire, he can afford it. As I indicated earlier, I've provided substantial documentation to the mayor and city council on why this proposal must be rejected. I respectfully and strongly recommend that the mayor and council reject the proposal now. Ronald Pies. The next speaker I have is Bill Armstrong. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Mayor, Council, Bill Armstrong, Paradise Valley. I'm the GM of the Coyotes. My purpose here was to come tonight to tell you about the plan of the Coyotes and where we're moving as a franchise. When my first press conference I had, I told everybody I didn't come to Arizona for a tan. I came here to win a championship. And since that day, all my actions and words have been based around building this organization into a Stanley Cup winning organization. From my history and from my experiences, there's only one way to build a Stanley Cup championship team, and that is through the draft. Since I've arrived in this organization, we've assembled a front office, including myself. We've got 3 people in the front office that have built a Stanley Cup winner through the draft. And also, we've acquired a massive NHL draft picks through trades, taking on bad contracts. Our draft picks combined with our experienced scouting staff will allow this franchise to operate and assemble an elite team on the ice. And the one thing that I would pose, most teams in the NHL have 7 picks per year. Because of taking on bad contracts and other things, other trades that we've made, we average anywhere from 10 to 12 draft picks. And that doesn't include last year's 3 first-rounders that we've had. And even through, it's early in the rebuild, you can see the talent that we've drafted slowly rising. I believe we're the first team from the 2021 draft. We've already got 2 players playing, Yanis Moser and Dylan Gunther.
If you looked at ASU last weekend, I don't know if anybody went to the games, but you could see some of our top level talent with Logan Cooley and Josh Doan. They put on a clinic out there on the ice. We were proud to say, and if you were an Arizona Coyotes fan, you'd be extremely excited if you went to the Mullet Center and see a sold-out arena and those two putting on a performance. My belief is if you can see it, you have a chance to become it. And if we look at one of the premier teams in our league, it's Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay has a lot of similarities to where we sit today. And believe it or not, at one point, I'm sure Mr. Gary Bettman and Bill Daly can attest to this, they played out of an airplane hangar. And now they are a 3-time Stanley Cup winner. And they are similar to us in the sense that they were built through the draft. They've got warm weather, they've got good taxes, and they've got a beautiful rink surrounded by an entertainment district with hotels, restaurants, and condos. And if we can take a landfill and make it a landmark in Tempe, we have a chance to become an elite NHL franchise right here in this city. The impact of having an NHL team in your community can be absolutely massive.
I can give you about another 15 seconds, so.
With this organization, players in our organization with schools, charities, and youth hockeys, and you can have great role models in the community. I've had the ability to win 3 championships at different levels, and the one thing that ends, you get a cup and you get a parade. And nothing, and I mean nothing, will bond a community more than us winning a championship with them. So vote yes, let's win together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Shane Doan. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello, Council, Mayor. I'm Shane Doan. I live in Scottsdale, but I have 2 kids that live in Tempe now. So I'm down here way more than I ever planned on being down here. And I have a 3rd one that's on his way, so he's anticipating being here as well. But thank you so much for the opportunity to come up and speak. It's you hear everybody talk about all the numbers and everything, and I'm probably not the best one to speak on all of that, but I do have a history here with the club. Mr. Bettman's the only one that has been with the club longer than I have been, and had the opportunity to have him as an owner as well as Mr. Murillo. And ownership matters. It matters so much, and it's so important for an organization to be successful. You have to have that. We have that here. I've got to know Mr. Murillo and his family over the last few years, and it's been an absolute pleasure. It's something that we were actually at his wife and his renewal of their vows, which was something that was absolutely, just the way that he treats people is very special to me. My history here has been that I believe hockey works here. I believe enough that I put my whole career based on that. I bet my career on that, and I still do. But it needs to have a home that we're talking about now in order to make the playing field equal and the same. You just heard Mr. Armstrong talk about how important it is to Tampa Bay to have to have the success that they had through the organization with the building. We need that here. It's something that if we do it right, we will be a staple franchise that will be somebody that everyone else kind of looks to as an example. I've been here long enough to see when Tempe was filled, when they filled the Tempe Town Lake. I was driving down the 202 when the Sun Devils beat Nebraska 17-0 and went to the Rose Bowl. Unfortunately, we didn't win it, but we went there, and it was an unbelievable experience for the city of Tempe and the way that it brought Tempe together. I've watched what Tempe's done with the Tempe Town Lake. It's been talked about how it's only the 2nd most visited landmark in the whole state. The foresight that has been shown is incredible. I think that if we continue to do that, and we have the opportunity to do that with putting an exclamation mark kind of at the end of Tempe Town Lake and saying, hey, this is a district that everybody wants to go to. I've seen the pictures of Barry Goldwater water skiing on the river behind a truck, and I've seen the way that the city's grown, and it's absolutely amazing that the fact, though, that the A-class business offices that are downtown and the foresight that the city's shown is so encouraging. And as somebody this is my home, and I've bet everything on this organization, it means so much to me that you guys would take that next step and put us in the league that we want to be in, where we are the staple league. We are the staple team inside the league that Mr. Bettman and Mr. Daly have shown so much support by being here, that if we do this, it will repay so many people back, and it will be the opportunity for us to be an example for everyone. But on behalf of my family, thank you so much. And on behalf of the Coyotes, who I'm so honored to work with, thank you so much for taking the time and looking at this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Doan. Appreciate it. The next speaker is Cynthia Yaramil.
Mayor Woods and members of the Tempe City Council. My name is Cynthia Jaramillo. I am the Senior Vice President for the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Also served as the Economic Development Director for the City of Albuquerque. So I've seen the fruits of many of these types of development projects. Greetings from Washington, D.C. I am here to speak on behalf of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and our Board of Directors. We want to express our full support for the approval of the proposed Tempe Entertainment District. The United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce actively promotes the economic growth and development and interests of more than 5 million Hispanic-owned businesses that combined contribute over $800 billion to the American economy every year. We also serve as a platform for our nationwide network of over 260 local Hispanic chambers of commerce, including the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We believe that the proposed Tempe Entertainment District represents a tremendous opportunity for the city of Tempe and will greatly benefit the Arizonian economy for generations to come. The Tempe Entertainment District not only represents a private investment of $2.1 billion that will create more than 7,000 permanent jobs. It will also generate $225 million in taxes to the city of Tempe that will ultimately contribute to America's economy. This project is set to provide a world-class leisure and commercial space to the Tempe community, removing more than 1.5 million tons of trash in the process. We are especially excited about this project due to its ambition to provide private and public benefits to the entire community. As you know, this project also contains an important piece of significant community contributions in affordable housing, affordable transportation, education funding, emergency services, and other very important social services. We believe that this project represents a win-win for the private sector and the Tempe community, who will enjoy firsthand the impact of this private investment in the development and modernization of the city infrastructure. Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. The next card I have is Chris Nickel. Is Chris Nickel available? Anyone virtually? No? Okay. The next card I have is from Tom Brown. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening, council, staff, and mayor. This is an impressive lineup of speakers. I appreciate the momentum. And that's actually kind of the point of my chatting with you today. No one in this room expects that the words spoken by the most eloquent speaker will change anyone's mind. So it's time to look towards the future, the time to hammer out the airport issues or the true cost of landfill remediation are past. Your minds are probably made up. In recent meetings, we've heard words of wisdom from past generations, and this is useful. A lot of cliches become cliches because they are distilled truths. Here are a few. The past is prologue. The leopard will not change his spots. The scorpion will sting the frog because it's his nature. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Glendale's history, for example. One cliche I learned from a fellow I worked for in the 80s. Nick, you remember the 80s when we didn't get to wear good-looking socks?
You don't like my socks?
No, I admired them. The 80s, yes. I worked for a fellow on Mill Avenue. He had one good saying, which I recall. There's many a slip twixt the cup and the lip. I cite that because no one in this room can predict exactly what will actually end up being constructed on the 46 acres at Priest and Rio Salado. I have more years witnessing grand schemes here in Arizona than almost all of you. Certainly Mr. Woods has been here in this business for longer than that. None of these grand schemes really have emerged into daylight with faithful adherence to the pretty renderings or the developer's verbiage shared to gain zoning rulings or GIPLIT approvals. So watch this space for value engineering and other possibly disappointing slips betwixt the cup and the lip. So, dear council members, vote as you will. Tempe's watching and looking forward to our chance to vote. The TED team plans to get the petition signed and submitted, I understand, in time for the May 16th ballot. Some of us will circulate petitions for the later August ballot, just in case the TED petitions have some typos and get tossed. People can sign both petitions. Let's see how many people actually feel that a 30-year, $500 million tax giveaway makes sense. Thank you for this chance to speak my mind. I do hope that the council can now turn its attention to the much more important issues that the city of Tempe needs to address.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate it. The next speaker is Wes McClure. Is Wes McClure here this evening? No? Okay. The next speaker is David Sokolowski. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
My name is David Sokolowski. I live in Tempe. It's enticing to hear how this development could generate billions, but we can't determine if this development will create 3,000 jobs or 7,000. Will Tempe generate 400 million in revenue, or will Tempe generate 200 million? Will the coyotes actually bring new visitors to Tempe? We're giving the coyotes 100 million in marketing value. They get our city brand, and they get Tempe Town Lake. The coyotes said the stadium doesn't make money. It's the other half of the development that is profitable. The coyotes are completely independent, totally dependent on the city for this development to succeed. The Town Lake is one of the most popular places to visit, and the coyotes are depending on that to pay for the stadium. Tempe doesn't need naming rights because we already own Tempe Town Lake. The coyote's own letter of explanation says the project will leverage its proximity to Tempe Town Lake. The median income for the jobs was estimated at $50,000 a year, but you need to earn $60,000 to rent an apartment in Tempe. And economist Elliot Pollock estimated that people will need to earn $73,000 a year, and unless we can solve our housing shortage, it will increase to $90,000 a year. Tempe has plans for about 1,500 affordable apartments, but the city actually needs more like 20,000 affordable apartments. This one development project could completely wipe out all of the progress we are making to create affordable housing. Tempe would need to purchase Food City 10 times just to house people from the county's entertainment district. We need to leverage this land to the best of our ability. If the land is suitable for market rate, then why can't we include affordable housing? The county said we don't have millions to clean this land, and it would be ridiculous to do that. We don't have millions to house thousands of low-income workers, and it would be ridiculous if we did that for a sports team. The responsible and equitable thing to do is to build housing to support the Tempe Works program. Please vote no, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Greg Foster. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Woods and Council. My name is Greg Foster. I'm at 593 South Roosevelt Street, literally 4 blocks due west of here. We're on Tempe Town Lake all the time. I'm down a mill, climbing a mountain, everything. My wife and I moved here 8 years ago. We love the city of Tempe. 8 years ago, for people who've lived here, you'll notice how much the skyline has changed. It is beautiful here. You look at what happens whenever they film a show that highlights Phoenix. What do they show? Tempe Town Lake. The current leaders of the council and mayor and past leaders have a real we can, we will attitude. This project, for me, I'm biased. We love it. And it's going to directly affect us. just because of where we live. There's so much upside to this project that is unbelievable. And for us, we love spending our money here locally. We don't like to have to go everywhere. The ownership group for the Coyotes, they presented a project here that is such a game changer that's going to only accent what people perceive Tempe to be. Because Tempe is an incredible city, and we love it, and we really hope you push this forward so we can get this project going, because a 5,000 seat arena where they're playing at ASU just isn't big enough. But also, I'm biased from the standpoint too that, yes, it is the Coyotes, but do you know how many other venues can now come here to Tempe that's going to benefit other people with that type of arena? The concerts. There's so many things happening in Tempe. This is only a major asset that can be added. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. My next speaker is Brendan Walsh. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thanks for having me here today, and thanks for your deliberations. As the mayor said, my name is Brendan Walsh. I am a resident of Phoenix, and I'm the executive director of Central Arizonans for a Sustainable Economy, or CASE. Among other work, CASE seeks to represent the interests of working people in Maricopa County when it comes to economic development in our most significant cities. I myself am one of those working people. My mother was a waitress at IHOP, and my father was a police officer as I was growing up. Police officer in Boston, Massachusetts, in fact. And our Bruins have the best winning percentage in the NHL right now. Really massive Bruins fan. So my parents moved to Arizona, though, in 1991, primarily because they couldn't afford a home in Boston. 2 of my brothers also came here to live. They were ASU graduates, and they also raised families here in Tempe and Scottsdale. And I myself moved to Arizona in 2005 because Arizona is a bellwether for issues in the United States, for issues like family-sustaining jobs, access to quality education, healthcare, and especially housing affordability. So I came here to be part of creating positive change for working families in what was the fastest growing state in the United States. From that perspective, it's hard to see how this development, as it is, benefits current working residents of Tempe. Whatever very limited contributions the development will make to Hometown for All or other affordable housing initiatives, it does nothing at all to help housing affordability in general and may actually lead to further gentrification and an exacerbation of the housing crisis in Tempe. Mr. Sokolov, I think, pointed out exactly what it costs to live here, and that I think the development, if it does create jobs, as Mr. Sokolov said, it's unlikely to be jobs. These jobs are unlikely to be filled by people who live in Tempe, because most of the people who are in these jobs can't afford to live here anymore. My organization works with working men and women who've always experienced this as downtown Phoenix has developed, largely in projects that Mr. Wood has represented in their request for GIPLETs as well. The hotel workers and convention center workers that we represent in downtown Phoenix have to travel 90 minutes by bus to get there for the most part. None of them can afford to live anywhere near the development. In fact, most of them live in Glendale. We also work with employees at ASU Food Service here and at the Tempe Mission Palms across the street. Those workers did a fast and strike when they were trying to get union recognition across the street. Many of them have testified here that they have had to move out of Tempe because of the housing crisis, and they can't afford to live here anymore. So we can't see how the development as currently constituted helps working family in Tempe, but potential negative impacts abound. I do want to say also that the contention that the development is privately funded entirely is obviously false. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in GIPLET tax abatements as part of the agreement, and to say otherwise is just not true. So I get
30 seconds.
There'll be 10 seconds, I think.
Sure.
So like the bulk of the actual Tempe residents who have testified here, we at CASE are not convinced that the proposed entertainment development here is one that the majority of citizens of Tempe support. But given your recent vote to reserve a space in the May ballot, it seems like you too think that it will ultimately be Tempe residents who have the final say should you approve it tonight. I appreciate, and we all appreciate the time you've taken to deliberate this matter. We hope you ultimately do what's best for the city, and particularly for the working families struggling to hang on and live here. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Leslie Thomas. Is Leslie Thomas available, either virtually or here? Oh, yes. Please come. No problem.
Ladies, gentlemen,
Well, please make sure to speak in the microphone. Just make sure we can hear you. So.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. You're
Ladies,
good.
gentlemen, judge. Hi, my name is Daphne Thomas, and I'm in my second year of one of the Kachina's 8U, 10U development teams. It means so much to have the Coyotes make this dream of girls hockey come true for us here in Arizona. With the Coyotes' support, this opportunity to learn and grow in hockey has also given so much, more than I ever expected. I have built awesome friendships, a big hockey family that is here for everyone, and the confidence to know that our hard work really does pay off. I've already beaten my personal record for goals from last year, and I'm going to keep working to score more. I love my coaches too, not just for hockey, but in seeing their work with so many charities and organizations. Helping others brings a lot of joy to everyone. I've volunteered multiple times too, and it's incredible to be a kid and be welcomed by the Coyotes to help make a difference. It's amazing that the Coyotes give so much back to their home, and I know that Tempe will be perfect for them to continue showing all that they can do, off and on the ice.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
You know, someone said earlier that they felt bad following a former mayor, but I feel bad for the person who has to now follow her. And that person is Jerry McPherson. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council. And thank you again, Daphne.
I promise you I was thinking the same thing.
Same wavelength.
Good evening, Mayor Woods, council members. My name is Jerry McPherson, and I am both a resident and business owner here in the city of Tempe. Separate from my direct ties to Tempe, as a taxpayer and a job creator, I serve as Director of Economic Empowerment for the Greater Phoenix Urban League, where I oversee our Entrepreneurship Center and Workforce Development initiatives. I speak before you today in support of the proposed Tempe Entertainment District. The Urban League has been serving the region for the past 77 years, helping minorities and others from underserved communities obtain economic and social equality. With that in mind, the Urban League is encouraged by the efforts of team owner Alex Morello and team president Javier Gutierrez to make an impact in minority communities through the sport of hockey. Organizations like the Coyotes should be rewarded for the efforts and accomplishments in breaking barriers and creating opportunities for others. We believe the Tempe Entertainment District will be yet another vehicle to create new and permanent opportunities through jobs and careers. We trust this development will enhance the partnerships and the investments in organizations that the community will benefit from. Thank you all for your time and continued leadership. I trust you will seize this transformative opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McPherson. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, I believe you have a card to read into the record from Philip Yates.
Mayor, yes, I do. As an accommodation for a medical issue, Philip Yates, resident of Tempe. He writes, I am the president of the Riverside Neighborhood Association. The Riverside community and surrounding areas have expressed many concerns that I will list below in regard to the Coyotes project. Riverside and Sunset are currently one of the only neighborhoods left in Tempe where it is still slightly possible to afford a rental home. People on the verge of homelessness will increase due to rising rents and properties being converted to Airbnbs. Crime will increase heavily due to gambling, drinking, and driving. The city will be responsible for installing new sewer lines, utilities, and a fire station near this location because of the sheer magnitude of this project. 2,100 apartments, 500 hotel rooms, the entertainment district, plus a 50,000-seat stadium. The area is already difficult to navigate, and the developer has stated that they will be installing temporary one-way signs and barrier to deflect traffic during their 270 yearly events that will take place. This will make it difficult for emergency services to get to their needed destinations without building a new fire station. This will also make traveling to the freeway or airport very difficult for nearby residents. The City of Phoenix has confirmed if the proposal were to be passed that they would be suing the City of Tempe. Will the developer pay the legal costs? The FAA is opposed to the project for safety issues and confirmed that sound in the general area will be elevated. They have also confirmed that the City of Scottsdale's noise levels will increase due to flight patterns that may need to change. This has angered many Scottsdale residents. Sky Harbor International is also against the proposal due to safety concerns. Knowing all the facts, if a mid-air collision were to take place, the City of Tempe would be responsible for the deceased and also other damages. In 1993, the City of Tempe sued the FAA for $100 million due to aircraft noise from flight patterns being altered. The lawsuit was settled in the amount of $30 million so residents could soundproof their homes. Will the residents be suing the City of Tempe because of this new project? Alex Morello has a long history of not paying taxes and following his lease agreements. What will the consequences from the developer be if this happens again? A clear list of legally binding obligations that the Morello Group has proposed must be clearly defined. Alongside this, a list of legally binding consequences must be stated and followed if any of the obligations are violated. In conclusion, with all these concerns listed above, the Coyotes project is far too great a risk for the City of Tempe to take on in this location or any location. The City of Tempe should also be asking themselves why other cities have not wanted the Coyotes Stadium. Again, that was Philip Yates and read as an accommodation for a medical issue.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Appreciate it. And a quick question for you as well. The next card I have has actually 2 names on it. So what would you like? Should I take them separately and give 3 minutes apiece? What's your ruling?
Mayor, it's your call. They're 2 individuals, and they each could speak for 3 minutes, if that's your will.
Okay, sure. I will. I want to be equitable. So the next card I have is from Juan Avila. Yes.
My fiance, Stephanie Williamson.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
To the council. My better half, she makes me more palatable. Thank you. My fiance and I spent our most formidable years in Tempe. We fell in love on Mill Avenue. We met on Mill Avenue. We had to find new jobs out of Tempe where we could make more money. We had to move out of Tempe to find a home we could afford. The reason we're coming here today is because we love Tempe. And it's not that I hate hockey or I hate this project. It's that I don't think you should enter an agreement with people with unclean hands. I come here to support essential employees. How can we focus on extracurricular activities when our resources are so thin? This facility is so beautiful. It is exquisite. Are we going to have enough 911 operators to staff it? Are we going to have enough police officers to accommodate the traffic? Are we going to have enough firefighters to respond to the drunk people passing out at a hockey game? This is why I come to you, for protections for essential employees. I understand I can't stand in the way of progress. My grandmother's house is in the middle of a freeway. But I am here asking for the very least to limit foreign investors, to stop foreign investors from buying up our land. I'm asking for an equal number of affordable housing for essential employees. And I'm asking also for the City of Tempe to be the first in Arizona. We know this is a right-to-work state, but it doesn't work that way for employees that are hurt on the job. We're met with insurance companies who categorically deny the claims of people who were hurt working on the job. I'm asking that Tempe start today to protect essential employees from having their benefits categorically denied by insurance companies who are contracted by companies such as the Coyotes. I was injured while working a flight for them, and I've since been hung out to dry. I have to pay my own medical benefits and rely on the love of my family, the charity of others. It shouldn't be like that. I'm asking the council to help me call out the City of Phoenix Aviation Department and help to hold these people who have not been good stewards of these good resources to them, help to hold these people accountable. Your Honor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Ms. Williams, anything on your end, or are you okay? Okay.
We said it all.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Shanna Ellis. Former Councilmember Shanna Ellis, I should say. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Okay, thank you. Shanna Ellis, Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to address you today. As most of you know, I was born and raised here, attended Tempe High, ASU, and I sat in your seats, although they look totally different, for 8 years. My husband and I have children who live in Tempe, and we also own a condo here. I have not come to speak at a council meeting since I left office over 8 years ago, but I believe this is one of the most pivotal and important items that you may see in your tenure, and it will have such a positive impact for generations. I'm very disappointed that there is so much misinformation circulating, and I doubt that I'm going to say anything tonight that you don't already know. But I want you to realize that there are many individuals who have made an effort to fully inform themselves on this project and are very supportive. Tempe has a history of thinking outside of the box. To have the downtown we have now, land was offered for pennies on the dollar to entice development. Tempe was also the first city to pass a transit tax in Arizona and an early adopter of light rail. In all of these cases, Tempe was the innovator and other cities followed. And let me say, every city wishes they had a town lake, an economic development engine that will support our city for decades. Much has also been said about the GIPLET in this case, but it is proposed to do exactly what it was designed to do, to be an economic development tool to be used in an urban area. Costs over the years will and continue to rise. Because Tempe is landlocked, these costs can either be a burden to existing residents, services can be dramatically cut, or the tax base here can be increased. For decades, Tempe residents and councils agreed to increase the tax base through redevelopment, mainly in the downtown area. Being landlocked can be an advantage. It prevents sprawl, and it forces government bodies to thoroughly examine each parcel of land, as you're doing today, because land is scarce. We wouldn't have Tempe Marketplace, Center Point on Mill, and most developments on the town lake without this tool. These councils were very forward-thinking, and I believe all of you are also. I've been to many public meetings on this development, and I've seen many of you there, and I originally had my doubts too, but I've witnessed many individuals coming to these meetings very skeptical, and they got their questions answered, and they ended up being in favor. I want to end by saying I believe that many members of the public may not give you credit for the countless hours over these past months that you have dedicated to this project. There have been lots and lots of negotiations up to this point based on data that you gathered, input you received from the public, legal questions that were answered, and based on this, you have made dozens, if not hundreds, of changes to make this a truly remarkable project for Tempe for generations to come. The parcel of land is currently not generating any revenue and needs millions and millions of dollars of remediation before anyone can build. I encourage you to do what's best for Tempe, and I honestly believe Tempe will not have this opportunity again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next speaker is Peter Kovacs. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Corey. I'm Professor Peter B. Kovac, former resident of Hungary, New Jersey, Sarasota, and now Tempe for a year. I'm also an independent U.S. Senate candidate who ran against Cory Booker in New Jersey, and also am an independent U.S. Senate candidate here. This is an issue that my buddy Dick Vitale would say, it's all about the money, baby, because it is. And you guys have a lot to consider now, because I've heard all the arguments on all the sides. I've seen this in Jersey with the Meadowlands. I've seen it in Tampa with the Lightning and what they did in Tampa Bay. But then you, on the other hand, not just 5 fingers, you've got to make a decision on the homelessness issue. And I was homeless. And I'm living in a rather dysfunctional rooming house at 3020 South Cottonwood. And look, I respect everything you guys are doing in terms of, you know, Arlene getting elected and John Skelton trying to get elected and all that. I think you guys are doing a fabulous job on the homeless issue. It's the #1 problem in this state. #2, in my opinion, as a U.S. Senate candidate, it's water issues. And #3 is the border. So I'm going to wrap this up quickly. I did this in Mesa, too, with a lot of time left on with John Giles and the council there. This is a big decision for you guys, all right? You know, we've heard the nice third grader. My mom taught third grade in Jersey. You got a lot to consider here, all right? And these guys know that the Devils and the Lightning have built championship organizations with human capital and big cash. So I'll wrap this up by saying, God bless all of you, and you got a heck of a decision you're gonna have to make, and I'll be here for the rest of the meetings, because I'm doing this, and I'm doing Mesa, and I've been all over the place. I've run the most unorthodox U.S. Senate campaign you guys have ever seen. If you ever saw a camera on me, I can't even go into all this in the last 57 seconds. But I'll wrap it up. I wish all of you well. God bless you. Thank you. And God bless all of you, too.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. The next speaker is Charles Seiler. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening. My name is Charles Seiler. I'm a Tempe resident and a small business owner. I just want to applaud the members of this council for taking on much of the risks for a billionaire's vanity sports and gambling complex on behalf of the Tempe residents and taxpayers. I mean, with his $14.5 billion estimated net worth, how could he really do it without us after all, right? So as virtually every municipality or municipal investment that's ever been made in a professional sports complex has failed to recoup its investment, I'm really glad that you all are cautiously only offering an estimated $500 million over 30 years. I appreciate that prudence. I mean, it's not like they've ever had any issues paying their taxes or generating revenues for other cities that they've been in, right? Instead of cleaning up our parks and making them safer, I love that we're passing new taxes to bring a gambling center to Tempe, along with its associated human trafficking. I'm really happy we'll see both increased traffic as well as increased rents. Tempe has gotten way more diverse over time because it's been affordable. So I really thank you for helping make the town more white again. It's definitely great to price out that pesky diversity in our neighborhoods. I also think it's genius how you all have schemed up a way to kind of wash your hands of all of this, and I'm sure that the Tempe residents and voters won't remember how you all colluded with the Morello PR machine to turn Tempe into his piggy bank. So congratulations. And given the size of the entourage of Morello's payroll that's present tonight and the revolving door of pro speakers we've heard, it's clear that you all have set up quite the public trough for them to belly up to. And just for tens of thousands of dollars in philanthropy in the area, he can soon wrest $500 million away from taxpayers. He's kind of a genius. So thank you all, from a Tempe resident, for creating new taxes to publicly fund a billionaire stadium instead of improving city services. And as a small business owner, I appreciate the early retirement because we know that small businesses won't be able to afford space in this area as it's going to be overpriced. And I'll probably have to move out of Tempe because the rents are going to go up. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it and can't wait to vote on this as soon as we get the chance. Have a great evening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Andrew Marwick. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hello, thank you, Mayor Wood, City Council. 12 years ago, Matthew Holzheiser, a name that hasn't come up tonight, came in front of the Glendale City Council and asking the City Council to put up $10 million to help him buy the Coyotes. I thought that was a ridiculous proposal, so I came to the Glendale City Council and spoke against it. I've spoken there dozens of times. And when I first went there, most of the City Council was strongly in favor. The mayor, some of the council members were very unhappy with what I was saying about the Coyotes organization. A few months later, Mr. Daley over here had 2 teams that were failing. The Arizona Coyotes and the Atlanta Thrashers. And he said, oh, we have a buyers lined up. It's going to close soon. We just need a backstop, $25 million. You're not going to need to do it. It's just a backstop to cover our operating. The buyer will be coming through soon. That was the second time Glendale lost $25 million in subsidies to the Coyotes. There were lease agreements. The history goes on and on. This year, last year, Glendale had it. All 7 council members, including some who were there 12 years ago, are 1,000,000% against the Coyotes. As I said to Commissioner Bettman, do not go to Glendale. You would not be welcome there. I also have issues with the transportation. They talk about transportation light rail. It's not going to work. People are not going to walk from 7th and Mill over the 2 miles over to the arena. The same thing with the light rail. It's over a mile, crossing the 202, crossing the Salt River. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a parking issue. There's a shortage of parking. There's a lot of issues there. Another issue is this has not, the city of Phoenix, there's airport issues I won't be able to get into now, but this is not about losing a few events at the Footprint Center. This is a foolish thing to do, to add a third arena to the Phoenix area. I think you've heard of Live Nation Ticketmaster. They will be able to play the 3 arenas off against each other. And all 3 of the arenas will be losing money. Just think of what happened with the Taylor Swift ticketing fiasco recently. They'll also be competing with the Desert Financial Arena over here on the ASU campus and the Gamage Auditorium with the facilities they're talking about putting in. Withhold your vote and vote against this. One of the issues I see is Mr. Woods has done an excellent job. Javier Gutierrez, Commissioner Bettman, Captain Coyote over here, they've come up and spoken very eloquently for this development. One person is missing. Alex Morellos, is he going to come up here and come to this microphone? Why, when he's the principal owner of this team? Why should you vote when he hasn't come up to this microphone for 1 second and answered questions from the city council? I think before you vote on this, before you approve this, you should have some questions for Alex Murillo, including about his brother, the Murillo Maddox Group, which collapsed with a lot of foreclosures in Los Angeles, the issues with Miami Beach and the DeVille Hotel, which was imploded earlier this month. There's a lot of issues that he has to answer questions for. I think he should come up to this microphone and answer your questions before you approve this deal. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have is Matt Capalbi. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening, Mayor Woods, council members. My name is Matthew Capalbi. Excuse me. I am a government affairs representative for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters Union and also for Local 1912 here in Arizona. We want to express our support, which we have in the past for this project. And I also would like to take an opportunity to commend Mr. Gutierrez and his team for reaching out to us and guaranteeing that a percentage, at least, of this job, and this is unprecedented, will be union. And that's a first, actually, I think, anywhere in Arizona where that's happened. So I do want to thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, for your efforts. And also, I'd like to just take a moment for myself to speak to my brothers and sisters in the other labor organizations, that this is an opportunity. Granted, we have issues that we have to work with you all on regarding affordable housing, cost of living, location, et cetera, to people's jobs. That's very important. We have a mantra at the Carpenters, and that is jobs, wages, and benefits. And that's what we believe this project is going to provide. Our skilled professional carpenters and construction workers are going to be working on this project, and that's absolutely key. And we think beneficial to the working families across the board. And so we urge the other labor organizations to reach out to the Coyotes, talk to them, develop a conversation, a dialogue, and to make sure that the issues and interests pertaining to working families here in Arizona, especially here in Tempe, are addressed. We think that's absolutely critical. And again, a lot of the time we get the door slammed in our face being a union, and that's not the case with the Coyotes. They've been very open and honest with us in their efforts, and we certainly appreciate that. So again, we, on behalf of our membership, want to express our support for this project, and at the same time, we hope that the Coyotes, as well as the council, look into the matters regarding affordable housing and transportation, so working families aren't shut out of this project. All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Bill Ruiz. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I want to echo what my colleague Matt Kapabi says. William Reese, I'm a representative from the Southwest Mountain States Regional Council. And a lot of what Matt had mentioned earlier regarding the collective bargaining language in the DDA was reviewed by our staff internally, and it's a very, very promising language that we can look forward to bringing to our membership an opportunity for high wage projects such as this one that sustain our membership, our growth, and our members that live in the communities within the Tempe and in all the other outlying areas of Phoenix. I do want to commend the Coyotes for reaching out to us, the council for hearing our concerns regarding a community-based agreement when I was before you back in June. Again, we did look at the language in the DDA, and I think it's a good start. Again, it doesn't have to be this way, but we're willing to have that first step that it needs to happen, and we want to be a part of it, and our members are excited about it. We do have also a lot of members that live here in Tempe that are also concerned about a lot of the other concerns that are brought up before our council this evening, and we've addressed those in-house with our membership, and we've come up with some solutions. So we don't just build, we don't build only buildings, but we forge relationships, and we begin with solutions within the communities. And the reason why we do what we do is because our organization, we're self-funded. We don't rely on medical outside, we're self-funded. Our training, self-funded. We have men and women that get up every morning, they put their boots on, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and they're out there in the morning pouring concrete. In the afternoon, in the hot sun, they're getting it done. And when the rents go up, they're working overtime. And it's because of collective bargaining agreements of projects such as this that go forward with collective bargaining agreements that we can enjoy the type of lifestyles that they deserve to have. And so I want to thank you for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Jewel Valenzuela. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes.
En Epoteac, Jewel Valenzuela. Mi nombre es Jewel Valenzuela. My name is Jewel Valenzuela. I live here in Tempe, right just down here on 5th Street in Priest. I'm a Tempe public school teacher. I'm a grassroots volunteer with Samias. I also volunteer artwork and teach summer art classes and volunteer teaching art too for free. All my volunteer work is for free. So what you're talking about here, I see that it's coded. Oh, one of the things I wanted to do too is everything that predates this with green tables and mayors and everything. I'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on, which is Tohono O'odham land. And so please remember whose land you're on and what it stands for, because we're the community and our voice matters. I'm here representing our friends and family members that couldn't be here because kids are doing homework and people are working double jobs. You said that here that it's a big deal. It is a big deal. And our community needs to vote on this, and that the city of Tempe needs to look at everything, over everything really clearly. We don't just want to jump into it. I know that's what they want. They want you guys just to go ahead and take it. And then what's your legacy, Mayor Woods? Because when this goes down, and it's going to last 30 years if you sign that, that's going to be on you. 30 years from now, I'll still think of you and what happened there, if that's what you do. And our community, as a public school teacher, you want to help our community, you come over here, want to help. Where are you when we have families living out of cars? Where are you when our homeless people need socks and everything else that they need? Not you, I'm talking about these guys that just come in and say they can help. It looks to me like Glendale got rid of them for a real good reason. Tempe doesn't need them. They need us. They need you. They need what Tempe stands for. Our rent has gone up and keeps going up here in Tempe. And I keep honoring my community, keep volunteering, keep educating my students in school. And I want to say that that will affect me, everything that's around there. And also, when we voted to have the Cardinals here a long time ago, it wouldn't go because of the airport. And that was like right after 9/11, and that they said no. Why? Because if a plane goes into that stadium, guess what? You're responsible. Are you willing to, can you sleep with that at night? Thinking about that? I know, because I live on the plane tracks of where they go by. When the president flew in, I could see him right there, his plane. So our community needs to look at this, vote on it, and remember, they need us, we don't need them.
Thank you. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Judy Tapscott. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Mayor, Council, my name is Judy Tapscott. I'm a 22-year resident of the city of Tempe, and I'm here tonight to express my opposition to the Morello Coyote development. I'm against it based on history. History speaks the truth. We, the Tempe taxpayers, never asked for this development. It is a high risk, and we should not have to pay for it. The Morello Coyotes say the Tempe project will be financed privately. No taxpayers' money. But here's the truth. The project includes massive developer tax breaks, including an unprecedented 30-year tax break known as a GIPLET for a hockey rink, practice rink, and theater. This is taxpayers' money, a subsidy of many millions of dollars. The developer does not pay. Who pays instead? We do, the Tempe taxpayers. The Morello Coyotes say the Glendale Entertainment District created for them would be a successful venture. But here's the truth. The Coyotes failed to pay $1.3 million in owed city and state taxes. They were kicked out of Glendale after years of acrimony, and because they failed to pay vendors, contractors, and arena charges. If that happens in Tempe, who pays instead? We do, the Tempe taxpayers. The Morello Coyotes say they will invest $2.1 billion in private funds. No public taxpayer funds will be put at risk. But here's the truth. The Dun & Bradstreet evaluated their risk, the ability to pay privately. The result, the Morello Coyotes were cited as a high failure risk, a high delinquency risk, and a high overall risk. Expert financial analysts, based on the exact history of the Morello Coyote organization, tell the story of Tempe taxpayer risk. My reasons for strong opposition are based on the track record. History speaks the truth. We, the Tempe taxpayers, never asked for this development. It is high risk, and we should not have to pay for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker is Glenn Williamson. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Mayor, Council, Glenn Williamson, 36-year citizen of the United States and the town of Phoenix, Arizona. I am the chairman and CEO of the Canada-Arizona Business Council, and I'm also chairman of EPCOR, the largest private water utility in the state of Arizona. Canadians, for 2 seconds, let's think about that. About $2.5 billion a year come down here, just as tourists and snowbirds. Billions and billions and billions of dollars, of which I've spent about $3 billion here in the last 10 years, go into your communities. They help people philanthropically, make sure they have things. 500 Canadian companies operate here, large companies and small companies. Canada's position in this state goes all the way back to when Dr. Chandler founded Chandler. Think about that one for a second. So then you can also go down to other parts of the state and see Canadians doing mining, 50% of the mining, employing people where people are not employed. So what is the one thing that Canadians absolutely adore? It's like catnip, Councilwoman. It's exactly like catnip. And many of these Canadians that come down here end up as a tourist, then a snowbird, and then they move companies down here and they start investing in the communities. And they've been doing this for 60 or 70 years. And this is something that's not going to stop. Hockey is an added value, it's an added benefit, it's something that's really important. Who knows? They may go side by side investing with Mr. Morello. They do it everywhere else in the state. They do it everywhere else in this city. Canadians adore this town, they adore this region, and they adore this state. So I'm hopeful that you decide to go forward with what you have heard on a positive note from these people. With that, I would like to say thank you very much to Mr. Gutierrez. Gracias, amigo. Mr. Bettman, thank you very much. Nick, you're a great lawyer, you always have been. Stay on this one. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The next speaker I have is Fabian Sandez. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Fabian Sandez. I'm a regional manager for the Southwest Mountain State Regional Council of Carpenters and president of Local 1912. First of all, I wanted to thank the city of Tempe for being a hub and creating year in and year out union jobs. You guys and ASU have been supportive of union jobs, and this project is no different. I want to thank the Coyotes team for reaching out to us, and feel really privileged to have, for the first time in a long time, a professional team on the East Valley. So this project is not only going to serve the city of Tempe, it's going to serve the entire East Valley. It's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to put a lot of food in the table for a lot of families that live out in the East Valley. So I encourage you guys to vote for this project. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That is all the cards I have for this evening, but before I close that portion of the agenda, is there anyone else who wishes to speak before the Tempe City Council? If so, please get my attention now. Yes, sir. Please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Alrighty, you guys ready?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So my name is Tyler. I live in Glendale. I actually live across the street from Westgate. I used to live in Tempe. just really wasn't digging it. I wanted to do more. I wanted to always live next to the Coyotes. So I finally moved to Glendale. Then a couple weeks later, they said they were moving to Tempe. I was like, all right, cool. Thanks. But I don't see why I can't move back. This entertainment district is amazing. I didn't come here in a suit and tie. I've always been a real person. What you see is what you get. I'm not a car salesman. I'm not here to kiss butt. I'm just an honest person. I feel like you get further in life that way. I've met a good chunk of these people right here multiple times. I hope they remember me. Shane Doan, I hope you remember me. I've got more things signed in my bedroom than more people here. Javier Gutierrez, Alex Morello, I've met them a handful of times. Gary Bettman, I just met today, so thank you for signing my puck. GMBA, I never met you, but you rock. You guys, there's nothing there right now. You guys want something to do, they're giving you something to do. You guys want jobs, they're giving you jobs. You guys want money, they're giving you money. You guys want places to live, guess what? They're giving you places to live. There's a lot of stuff going around that I've been hearing. I don't know where they're getting the information from, but you guys want to take away the business side of it. So like I said, just look at these people. Look at the people. I don't think Shane Doan is gonna come into something crazy and awful. That is not that man. That dude's a god. But no, like I said, what you see is what you get, and I just wanted to voice my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the city council? Please get my attention if so. All right, last call. All right, then I will close that portion. Quick question, actually, Madam City Attorney. I know we don't get to the DDA until item 2B. I know we have a couple of votes before that. Is there a way to get the presentation on the actual project and the DDA before going back to take all 3 votes, just to make sure that in full transparency, people see everything before any vote takes place?
Certainly, Mayor, you could seek the presentation right now.
Okay,
That's fine.
sounds good. I just want to make sure for the folks who are here and people watching at home. So, okay, I'm going to move on then to item 2B, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a development and disposition agreement with Bluebird Development LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, for the project known as the Tempe Entertainment District, located at the northeast corner of Priest Drive and Rio Salado Parkway in Tempe, that also establishes policy regarding referenda involving professional sports franchises. So I'd like to see if there's any presentation from the developer on this item. And I just wanted to say too, thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Appreciate you stepping up to the podium. Wanted to say too, normally during presentations regarding development agreements, we usually have a presentation during the first hearing for public transparency, and usually a much more abbreviated presentation for the second public hearing. But given the size and the magnitude of this project, I would definitely love, Mr. Gutierrez, if you and Mr. Wood could give a full presentation like you gave last week on the 22nd, just to make sure that people have 2 opportunities to see the full scope of what you're attempting to do.
Absolutely. Mayor, council members, Javier Gutierrez, President and CEO of the Arizona Coyotes. First and foremost, what a momentous night. We really want to thank you for all of the work that you have done, all of the hours, all of the conversations, all of your diligence, your dedication, and your commitment. It really does start with you, and we appreciate you. Second, really have to do so many thank yous to your staff. Truly incredible individuals who have spent countless hours on behalf of this community. We'd like to publicly recognize each and every one of them and thank them. As you mentioned, Mayor, we'd like to share some of the comments that we shared last week, right? And I'd like to start with something that I made part of my presentation. Just a couple of opening remarks to set the tone about this presentation that you're about to hear. And it really starts with the concept of impact. The reality is that we're not here just to talk about hockey. We're not here to just talk about sports. We're here to talk about impact. The idea and the mission of leveraging the power of our voice to make a difference in the lives of others, and in particular, in this community, our community, that we are a member of today. I bring up impact because that is the mission that defines Alex Morello and his family. It really does start with Alex. Many people have heard of him, but very few people know him. So I'd like to introduce him. Alex Morello is the son of Cuban immigrants. He started his first business, a tuxedo shop, catering to the Latino immigrant community in Los Angeles when he was barely a teenager. This is a self-made entrepreneur who has been in business successfully for 40 years. He's managed to weather ups and downs of multiple economic cycles, never once having a business in bankruptcy, and having secured financing from some of the largest and global banks and financial institutions in the world. The business he's built, which you've heard a lot about, the Morello Group, it's not a nameless or faceless corporation. It's a family-run business. It's a family-owned business. It includes the largest Latino-owned bank in California, one of the largest union infrastructure construction subcontractors in the West, and one of the largest English and Spanish language media businesses in the U.S. And we are very proud to say that the Morello Group is one of the most successful minority business enterprises in the country. And in 2019, Alex, with his family, his wife Lizette, his children Alexis, Alexander, and Lisette, they fulfilled a lifelong dream of owning a sports franchise. And in doing so, Alex Morello became the first Latino majority owner in the history of the NHL. But all along, his family and Alex have had one mission, and that's really to make impact. And they have chosen Tempe, this community, to make that impact. When Alex reached out to me to be a part of what he was building, it was this mission of impact that resonated and moved me to join him on this journey. I've had a chance to share my story with several of you as we've gotten to know each other. And as you all know, I'm an immigrant to this country from Mexico. And I have been blessed to live the American dream due to the hard work and sacrifice of my parents and my family. And I've been on a lifelong journey to help others live their American dream. And so I'm here, having moved my family. My wife, Jerica, is here tonight. My son, Javi, who's at his first basketball game of high school tonight. And due to Alex's vision, I became a part of this journey, and I'm proud that I am the first Latino president CEO in the history of the NHL. But I'm especially proud of the fact that we are making an impact here. But as will all be argued, this isn't just about a bunch of fancy words. This is about action. And we as an organization are very proud of the impact that we have made come a reality. We're very proud of having one of the largest female front offices in the NHL. We're very proud of having started one of the first diverse coaches internship program. We're very proud of having the first and only Native American community on our jersey, and you heard from our partner Gila River tonight. And we're also very proud of having the leading social impact enterprise in the state as on our helmet, and that's Goodwill, and you heard from them tonight. We're very proud of being a Tempe business today. And again, I want to start by recognizing Alex Morello and his financial commitment of over $30 million for a temporary solution. And as a result, we are here in Tempe today. We've built one of the most exciting and electric environments in the NHL at Mullet Arena, right down the street from here, right down where we hope to stay permanently. I would like to, at this point, also thank ASU for having partnered with us and allowing us to be a part of their community on their campus while we hope to work with you all to stay here in Tempe permanently. And according To the Tempe Chamber, we are very proud to be the largest minority business enterprise in Tempe today. And so while we're respectfully requesting you all to approve this proposed project that we will present yet again tonight, what we're really asking you is to help us with this opportunity to continue on our mission to make an impact right here in this community, to turn a landfill into a landmark, to bring almost 7,000 permanent jobs to Tempe, to create a $2.1 billion sports and entertainment complex that we envision being the main and main of the valley, to be the first and only privately financed sports and entertainment facility in the history of Arizona, and to fulfill the vision of Rio Salado that you heard eloquently from former Mayor Neil Giuliano that led to the creation of Tempe Town Lake. In short, we are asking you to help us make impact a reality here in the community that we are very proud to be a part of. And with that, I would like to turn to our presentation. And I'll start with highlighting what we'll talk about, which is we will address what the project is, what the deal looks like, what the benefits are, and then we will show a video that you probably have now seen at least 100 times, but many folks in this audience have not. I think it's important for us to start with this picture. This is what it looks like today. 46 acres on Priest and Rio Salado. Half of it is a contaminated, no, the whole site is a contaminated landfill, but part of it is your facilities maintenance yard. There is no economic activity on this site right now. If anything, it's a liability. As I get sent articles constantly, that compost pile caught on fire last summer. You're very well aware of that. This is what we envision. The opportunity to turn that site into this landmark. And it's very important to highlight right here, everything you see there, all those buildings, all that development, we will be paying for that. There are no taxpayer dollars that are paying for any of those buildings. So let's talk about the project. I always start by highlighting that your third party, a very respected global market feasibility study firm, noted that this proposal was the site's highest and best use. This is a $2.1 billion project, one of the largest property developments in the history of Arizona. It's an opportunity to turn that landfill into a landmark by removing 1.5 million tons of trash. It will include, yes, a 16,000 plus seat arena that will be the home of the Arizona Coyotes, but it will also be a world-class entertainment venue. It will include our Coyotes practice facility, which is a community amenity, and we've stressed this over and over again. We are here to make impact. That practice facility will be a public benefit, open to the public, and also the headquarters of one of the best youth hockey programs in the country. It will include a restaurant row and a retail center so that folks can shop and eat here in Tempe. It will include 2 hotels, and we've had many discussions with many members of the community here who have talked about the need for more hotels in Tempe. It will include a 200-key boutique hotel and a 300-key more convention-style hotel. We envision these to be incredibly popular and continue on this growth of tourism that Tempe is experiencing. It will also include a private medical office campus, and you have in your possession and have had it since our June meeting, a letter of interest from a major Arizona-based medical company that seeks to move their offices to this project and bring 3,000 jobs, and in large part because it is Tempe and because of the amenities of this district. It will also include, as we've discussed on numerous occasions, 1,995 residential units so that this becomes a live, work, play community. and also a 3,500 person theater to be flexible space for smaller shows and performances. This is the site map that you've seen. The only thing I will point out is obviously phase 1 is the easternmost site. It includes the arena, the practice facility, the hotel. That's what we would be seeking to start first. You will hear from Nick Wood in terms of the deal. But part of the deal will be a $40 million non-refundable deposit to help start the remediation and the build out of that first phase. The only other thing I will point out about the site map, because it was a comment brought up in a number of community meetings, we are committed to building this entire project. And in fact, the economic viability of the first phase relies on the development of the second phase. We cannot have one without the other, and we are fully committed to that. And that is squarely in every document, every analysis, and every conversation that we've had with you and your staff. So what are we actually asking the city to do? As you all know, it's quite a complicated project and deal, but let's summarize it into 4 major requests. First, sell us the land. 46 acres, contaminated land at $25 a square foot, which is a market rate that you all have underwritten. Number 2, create a community facilities district, which is a common structure that you all are very well familiar with. It is a separate legal entity from the city, and that CFD would be the entity that would then, for number 3, create public infrastructure bonds for the public infrastructure, whose sole collateral would be the land and the real estate that we're building, and a portion of the on-site taxes, and I know this was a question asked last time, and we'll get into what that means, as well as a user fee. What that means, and I'll let Nick get into it, is if you come onto the property and you buy a ticket or you stay at the hotel, you will be creating the taxes that pay those infrastructure bonds. If you don't, you will have no tax burden. And that's why we say that there is no tax burden on the city's residents. And finally, we can talk about the Jeeplets, which I know is a topic of conversation in many of these community meetings that we've had. We are seeking a 30-year Jeeplet for the arena, the practice facility, and the theater. And we are seeking an 8-year Jeeplet for the other uses. By comparison, and you will hear, every other sports facility in the state of Arizona pays no property taxes in perpetuity. We're asking for 30. You are very familiar with the 8-year Jeeplets for the other uses because they exist along Tempe Town Lake. Those are the asks. I will then ask Nick Wood to please come up. Thank you, Nick.
I brought a good belt this time. Everybody chuckles, but last week my belt broke, so I sat here lifting up my pants during the entire presentation. I've been the Coyotes organization's lawyer for almost 10 years. And one of the original ownership groups hired me in 2013 to negotiate their deal with the city of Glendale and to acquire the franchise from the NHL, and that's where Mr. Bettman and I met. And I've seen a number of ownership changes. Why each new ownership continues to keep me on as their outside lawyer is surprising to me, but for whatever reason they do. And when Mr. Morello came on the scene, he and I speak often, and we speak usually pretty late at night. It's not uncommon for us to be on the phone at 11 o'clock or midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and my wife Jennifer is here, sometimes wonders, you know, why I'm speaking to somebody so late, and I show her the phone, she goes, oh. But I've come to learn 2 very special qualities of Alex Morello, ones that I admire. One is his humility. Someone said, he should be up here talking, right? Well, the thing about someone like Mr. Morello, who has really created such a diversified portfolio of major businesses, to get where he is today. Usually, men especially who rise to that level and that level of achievement in particular, humility is usually kicked to the curb, as we've noticed in a former president whose name will remain silent. But Alex is not anything like that. He's very humble, which is one of the reasons why he doesn't come up here and speak. Another thing that I admire about him is we talk about how hard this project has been and how hard everyone works and how hard he has worked his entire life to get where he is. And we talked about, as I mentioned last week, that everything you do matters. And he mentioned that he holds himself to a higher standard, and he has his entire life. Of course, I asked, is that because being Latino, some people view you through a distorted lens? And he said, no, it has nothing to do with that. He said, I don't want to let anyone down. He said, so many people rely upon me for what I do, my family, my business partners, my employees. And when it comes to this project in the city of Tempe, okay, I don't want to let them down. So we have spent an incredible amount of time putting this deal together. Several all-nighters, right, to get to where we are today. And I want to thank your staff, by the way, and your representatives to get us where we are today. It's a tremendous effort on their part. So when I met with Mr. Morello and Mr. Gutierrez the first time, they showed me this site. And as I mentioned last time, it looks like it's out near Globe or something near an iron mine, but it's right here in Tempe. And he explained that, I want to convert this to this. Of course, this is magnificent. And as you heard Javier say, all of this will be done with private money. All of it will be done with private money. And I said, that's absolutely incredible. And as a former resident of the city of Tempe, but I was a resident at the time, I was really pretty excited about, this whole idea. And he said, they're going to do an RFP. It's going to be $25 a square foot. I said, great. It should be a pretty easy deal. He said, well, not so fast. He said, the property contains 1.5 million tons of contaminated soil, a lot of garbage. Now, my kids growing up, I got a lot of garbage in their bedrooms, but nothing of this size or this nature. And I said, okay. And he said, we've estimated the cost of remediating the site. And it's not just the remediation itself, which will cost between $73 and $93 million. But as you can see, there's a levee there. That levee is over 3 stories tall, and it runs the length of the property and all the way up and down the riverbed. The amount of contamination that's here runs 30 to 40 feet deep, and it extends throughout the entire area of the property and right up against the levee. So in addition to doing a remediation, obviously we have to shore up the levee, which costs tens of millions of dollars along with everything else. Then, of course, as you remediate it, there are power lines, 69 kV lines that exist here, and they have to be moved. They're APS lines. And then there happens to be a 48-inch sewer pipe that runs through it, and that has to be moved. And then there's a title issue that has to be solved. There's a number of things that have to be done that total between $210 million and $230 million. So he said, I need your help. Okay, put on your tax attorney hat and figure out how to help me. And I said, I've had some ideas. And he said, well, let me give you 3 rules before you start thinking about this. Number 1, you're prohibited from asking the city of Tempe for any money, period. Rule number 2, do not break rule number 1. Rule number 3, do not create any risk, financial risk particularly, for the city of Tempe and the Tempe taxpayers. So I'm going, well, that's interesting, because, as I think some of you know, I represented, along with my partner Bill Sims, Maricopa County when we negotiated with Jerry Colangelo and built the Chase Field. There, of course, Mr. Colangelo put up $100 million, and the rest of it was done by a quarter of a cent tax. Right, countywide, you all paid that, right? And over 8 years, it paid for that stadium. I also represented, ironically, the city of Glendale, when they built Camelback Ranch for both the Dodgers and the White Sox. Again, all funded by the taxpayers. Really easy deal to do. And I've done many, many others like that. But here, with those three rules and looking at the amount of money, we had to think about a way to get it done. So obviously, we took a look at different mechanisms, right, to do it. And one of those, of course, is going out to conventional capital markets. Well, that's expensive money to get. The other is using the city's bonding capacity. And there's two types that you can use. One is improvement districts, right? The problem with improvement districts is it's cheap money, but the reason it's cheap money is because your full faith and credit stands behind it, which means it goes on your balance sheet as a contingent liability. That violates rule number 3, right? And that is no risk for the taxpayers, which left us with the CFD, Community Facilities District. Community Facilities District, because it is not a liability of the city of Tempe, because your full faith and credit doesn't stand behind it, because you owe no obligation behind it. It's expensive. It's expensive money. And going out basically 30 years, you have $210 to $230 million worth of principal, but over 30 years, the total amount of payments will be between $450 and $470 million. I don't care who you're talking to, that's a hell of a lot of money. So we talked about how we find the money for that. And Ed Pasquale, who's here tonight, did an analysis and of course worked with the city on that analysis to make sure we're all in agreement that it's both predictable and reliable. Basically, it says that if the city of Tempe allows us to use half of the transaction privilege tax that's created on site. Now, you heard Javier said, if you don't want to pay for any of this public infrastructure, don't come on the site. Don't spend any money. You won't have to pay it because there's only revenue generated on site. Well, you collect 1.8% transaction privilege tax on all business transactions in the city of Tempe. That's what your residents and everybody else pays. You've agreed to put up, at least your staff has agreed to put up half of that, right, which is 0.9%. Then we asked if you would consider putting up 75% of the hotel bed tax that is generated. And then we asked for a percentage of the property tax that would then rise, of course, after the GPLITs are expired. The problem with that is it only generates $210 to $230 million worth of revenue. That means that we're short $240 million. Where does that money come from? So Mr. Morello asked me, well, let's talk about this issue. Who's responsible legally to clean up contaminated soil? Of course, it's the owner, right? It's always the owner. But the city of Tempe doesn't have $210 or $230 million in its back pocket, nor if you did, should you spend it that way. It's not a good use of taxpayer money. So the question is, obviously, we have to find another source. So I suggested we do a surcharge. And the surcharge, of course, is like a TPT, like a transaction privilege tax, over and above the transaction privilege tax that everyone pays when they will come to the site. So if, for example, someone buys a ticket for $100, right, they will pay the city of Tempe $1.80, right, in TPT. But we will put a surcharge on top of that up to 6%. So it could be $2 additional money, it could be $6 additional money, but we put that on there. So basically, my client basically is self-taxing itself, right? For all ticket sales, merchandise sales, food and beverage, you name it, he's taxing himself, right, to cover what we hope to be the rest of the amount of money. And it turns out, with all the analysis that was done, it's enough. So Mr. Morello said, all right, great. I will go ahead and I'll pay more than 50%, right? $240 million versus the city's $210 to $230. I will go ahead and pay that, right? Even though it would ordinarily be the city's obligation. He said, is that it? Is that all that's necessary? I said, no. I said, when we go out to sell the bonds, the bond underwriters, and more importantly, the buyers of the bonds, they want to make sure that there's collateral security. I said, for example, if you go out and you buy a home, and you place a mortgage on it, right, with a deed of trust, that's because your lender lends you the money, but they want collateral security, so they put a lien on your home. It's the same thing here. The bond buyers and the underwriters are going to require that these bonds be what's called assessment bonds. And that means that the obligations to pay every penny of that $450 to $470 million has to be secured with a super priority lien on real estate. Now, what I mean by super priority is your property tax on your homes, right? That takes priority over even your lender's interest, right? That's what we call super priority. Your lender is subordinate to that. So if you don't pay your taxes and the lender doesn't step up and pay the taxes, guess what? Whoever holds a tax certificate forecloses and they own it free and clear of your lender and you and everybody else. So he said, well, how much of the property will have to be put up as collateral security? I said, assessment lien. I said, all of it. $2.1 billion to secure essentially $450 to $470 million worth of debt. So he said, let me get this straight. He said, I'm paying for half of the public infrastructure. That's really the obligation of the city of Tempe. And I'm not only securing my half, I'm also securing the city's half. I said, yes. He says, well, is that it? I said, no. I said, one of the issues is when you do the remediation, right, the city will still own the land because you will not want to own, right, the real estate that is subject to any kind of contaminated condition. So you're going to have to remediate it in phases, and then as it's remediated and clean, then, of course, you'll buy this thing in pieces. He goes, okay, that's fine. I said, well, the problem is, where's the money going to come from to do that first set of remediations in that first phase? I said, the city of Tempe doesn't have it, so it's going to come from you. You're going to put up, as part of the purchase price, okay, that $25 a square foot, the purchase price is $50 million. You're going to put up $40 million of non-refundable earnest money, right, to the city of Tempe before you even own anything. And the city of Tempe will then authorize the use of those funds to begin remediating the first portion of the project. And that would be the arena site. Once that's done, then we'll close on the acquisition of the site. Then, of course, we can now sell bonds because now we have real property owned privately that's subject to the assessment lien. And he said, okay, is that done? And I said, no. So the total amount of what he's going to be investing basically is $240 million, right, out of his pocket, plus $10 million worth of construction permits, plus he's going to pay $50,400,000 for land. He's already paying the equivalent of $150 per square foot, but the bottom line is paying $240 million to pick up more than half of the cost of remediation. And he said, well, what do you mean that's not it? I said, well, you're now going to become part, right, of the city of Tempe. And that means there's community benefits that are expected to be paid to become a resident. So we look at the additional contributions to the city of Tempe. Naming rights. All right, there's going to be this, a name of the city of Tempe right there in center ice. So every time there's a game, no matter who's watching it, that name will be seen everywhere. The name of the actual entertainment district will have the name of Tempe in it, whether it's Tempe Live, Tempe Go, whatever it's going to be named, Tempe's name is in it, and other naming rights as well. And that's over 30 years. So that's a value of $130 million, and that's basically naming rights and space that they could sell to someone else, but they're going to give it to the city of Tempe. In addition, there's going to be facility usage. You'll have 3 days a year, right, for 30 years, for the city to use the entire arena any way that you like. There'll be 5 days, essentially a year, when you can use the entertainment facility, right, for whatever you like. There will be 10 days a year where you can use the plaza, right, as you like. And you're going to receive a suite, right, free of charge, including all the tickets that go with it. The only thing you're responsible for is for food and beverage. In addition, we've got public safety contributions. One of the concerns you've heard some people say is, what if people are drunk, there's not enough police officers, et cetera? Well, we're going to contribute on an annual basis $1.1 million for 30 years for the city to use for basically fire, police, whatever your public safety services are. And again, it's not limited to just taking care of our site. It's however you want to spend it on your public safety. Light rail incentives. We are going to grant an easement, essentially, for the right-of-way. But in addition, we're going to have an agreement with light rail. And that is our tickets can be used basically as a ticket to use light rail, to encourage people to use light rail rather than their cars to come. Public shuttle, okay, we'll work with Orbit and we'll have our own shuttle system bringing people back and forth between the different stations. ASU partnership, we're going to provide ASU with 3,500 square feet of space to be used, again, over the 30-year period. Free office space for the city of Tempe. You have the ability to have 3,000 square feet of office space for whatever you choose as a city. Public arts contribution. The zoning requires us to do $2.5 million basically in public art. We're actually doing $7 million, which is far and away above what's required. Airport traffic mitigation. Basically, the idea was we were going to contribute about $250,000 a year for mitigation for people going back and forth to the airport. However, we've changed that basically to allow the city to use that for mitigation for streets around the site. Police substation, we are going to provide you with a 1,500 square foot police substation on site. Again, free of charge. Workforce housing contribution of $2 million and inclusive arena features. Again, timeout places for people who may, get anxiety because of the excitement of the game, etc. That adds up to $293 million, okay, or $145 a square foot. Now, if we go back to the previous slide, right, we're talking about $150 a square foot he's paying, then he's going to pay another $145. That's $295 a square foot for land that really is only worth $25. But the other thing is, take a look at what he's contributing in dollars. $293 million, right, and all of the additional contributions. You go back another, basically $240 million. That comes up to $533 million. So he took a deep breath, right, and said, what's in it for me? I'm going to be spending $533 million over 30 years. What's in it for me? And that's where we got into the discussion of the G-plits. As you know, I've done an inordinate amount of G-plits, 8-year style, et cetera. And I actually did a lot of the negotiations for the G-plit statute back in 2010, 2017, 2018. And one of the provisions in the statute encourages private investment in things like stadiums, arenas, convention centers, right? So basically they say that although most G-plits are 8 years in duration, so you get basic abatement for 8 years, and at the end of the 8 years, then the property is conveyed back to the developer, it goes back on tax rolls. But 426208.4 says that if you're going to build an arena, a stadium, a convention center, you are exempt from the term limits, right, for the abatement. And that means you can go up to 30 years, you can go up to 99 years, if that's what you choose to do. So at the end of the day, we first talked about doing 60 and 65 years. But again, in discussions with your staff, we thought that 30 years would be more appropriate. The savings from Mr. Morello in tax benefits over 30 years for the arena, for the practice facility, and for the entertainment facility is only $495 million. Okay, but he's paying out $533 million. So when anybody says, he's getting all this money for free, right, by not paying any property tax, that's just not accurate. He's not even getting back enough money to cover the cost of what he's going to be contributing to make all of this work. What this comes down to is the fact that you have a piece of land that's owned by the city of Tempe that hasn't generated any revenue for decades. And there's only one project that's possible that has enough revenue generation, enough business. I mean, think about this. Tempe Marketplace was, the thing when it was built, and it still is. It's 1.3 million square feet. Okay, State Farm, right, which again was a great deal for the city of Tempe. And as you know, I structured that tax deal, right? And I got hauled before the Appropriations Committee at the legislature to explain why it wasn't a violation of the gift clause. But that's 2 million square feet. This project is 4,300,000 square feet, more than twice of what State Farm is. That size and the business generation and the tax generation, right? There's not another project possible that could generate that money to be able to cover all the costs, the remediation, and all the things I just described to you. That's why this project, you hear other people say, well, you should use it for affordable housing. That would never pencil, not under any circumstances. There's examples of other stadiums. I mean, all the other stadiums in the state basically are paid by taxpayer money in one form or another. This is going to be the first one ever that isn't. I'm going to move on. Same thing with financing. As I mentioned, a lot of these were all financed with tax money. Labor. I mentioned last week, I've known Israel Torres, right, who represents a number of the union subs. I've known him, in fact, when he worked as a staff member for then Councilman Stanton at the city of Phoenix. And I consider him a friend, and he called me when this thing came out, and we talked. And he said, is there a way that we could have some kind of an agreement, right, between you and the trades? So we talked about it, and you heard Javier say that the Morello Group owns one of the largest, right, union contracting companies in the country. So obviously he has experience with unions. So we sat down and figured out what we could do. Essentially, we first looked at 20%, right? And what you see here is two provisions out of the DDA. One of them says to assure the application of the preceding sentence, which is we're going to use some union trades, the general contractor and or the construction manager will ensure at least 20%, now we're going to raise it to 25%, by dollar volume of the subcontracts for work for the arena and practice facility will be awarded to firms falling within a collective bargaining agreement in Arizona. So a minimum of 25% of the aggregate amount of contracts that are going to be awarded to subcontractors will be union. Again, that's something that we're volunteering to do. It's not something that any of you asked us to do, but it's something that we're doing. And again, Mr. Morello, his response was, it's the right thing to do. Okay? Same thing with 12.6.6.2. On-site construction of infrastructure improvements will include, et cetera. So with the exception of excavation and remediation, all of the public infrastructure work, again, 25% of that work.
Quick question, Mr. Wood, just wanted to ask. You're in the two provisions you're talking about here, you said 25%, it says 20% on the slides. Are you saying that it's actually going to be 25? Okay, so it's going to be 5% more.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And just a quick question on your end as well. Do you know what the additional 5% actually equates to in actual dollars of work?
Let me ask Mr. Pasquale. Ed? He's got a little computer out.
Sure. No.
About 20 million.
Additional 20 million, okay.
Additional 20 million.
Okay, additional.
I'm sorry.
30 million, okay, that sounds good. No, thank you. No, I was just looking for clarification based on what you said, kind of depending, I was looking to see, make sure you were saying 25% when the slide said 20. So, but thank you, that's very generous.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Hodge?
Okay, follow-up question. How much is it all together that they're going to get from the unions? I want that to be public, too.
Let me turn to the man with the numbers.
Total 130.
130 million.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, I understood what you meant, but when you said that affordable housing would not pencil out, can you just elaborate on that a little bit, just so the public understands what that means for this site?
Sure. So there's two types of affordability factors when you talk about housing. One is, of course, workforce housing. Workforce housing is a creature of HUD. Although it's not controlled by HUD, it's something that we would, enter into, and we do this in different cities where we enter into agreements, to a development agreement with the city, and provide that we'll, provide a certain percentage of the units as workforce housing. Workforce housing means that people whose income falls within a range. That ranges from 80% to 120% of the area mean income for Maricopa County. And those whose income falls within that range, they're permitted to pay no more than 30% of their annual income on rent. That doesn't include utilities, doesn't include parking or things like that. And that range of rent typically is anywhere from, and it's really measured on the number of people who occupy the unit, not the size of the unit. So if there's one person in the unit, that comes to about $1,220, I think it is. Then when you look at 3 or more people in the unit, it comes into about $2,100 a month. And that's for workforce housing. For affordable housing, that range now is lower. It's anyone who falls within 60 to 80% of the area mean income. And those rents, of course, are well below $1,000 a month. When you look at the investment that's being made in this project by Mr. Morello, I showed you, just what he's paying just for the price of the land at $150 a square foot plus $145, that's $295 a square foot. And then you look at all of the other elements that go into building this. Sorry. I'm technologically impaired. It would never pencil. The cost of building a unit, right, is a minimum of $500,000 a unit.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Also, the 25% for the union wages, I'm very happy about. So I think there's some union representatives in here still tonight, so I hope that was music to their ears. So thank you. Mr. Wood.
I will echo what Vice Mayor Adams said. I appreciate that commitment as well by your client to do that. That's adding an additional $30 million on top of what was already set aside, I think is a big number, and I just wanted to say thank you publicly.
Thank you. Now, we have a few additional changes to the DDA. I gave those to Sonia. 2 of them are just cleanup items. And then the third is, in our discussions with the airport, we agreed to add some language to an indemnification provision for the airport. So I don't know how you want to handle that, Mayor, if it's going to be read into the record, but I'll leave that to Sonia to make that decision.
I guess I'll look to her, Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. We have already incorporated those changes into the document that will be signed. And the way that I read the ordinance approving this development agreement, if council chooses to approve this development agreement, you are receiving authority to execute a document in substantially the same form as the document on file with the clerk. These changes are not substantial changes, and therefore I don't believe they need to be read into the record.
So basically, just a quick sort of clarification. So the changes that Mr. Wood has agreed to with Mr. Makowski earlier are these, that language is already incorporated into the DDA. And so therefore, if the council does vote to approve this, it would actually be reflective of the language of the conversations they've had in the agreement that they reached.
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And with that, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back to Mr.
Sounds good.
Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
Mayor, Council, Alex Morello would request the opportunity to speak and address you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Morello.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I am so grateful for everything you guys have done. I know the countless amount of hours you have spent on this project, not only yourself, but your staff entirely. Now, right about now, my council and Javier are probably scared of what I'm going to say. I don't blame you. I've got the commissioner, I've got Bill, I've got Shane, I've got so many people to be thankful for. I'll be here all night thanking everybody. But I especially want to thank not only the council and the mayor, but the city of Tempe, the residents of Tempe, because they've been so kind to me and so warm and so helpful. And that to me is very personal. I've got my kids here with me, my daughter and my son and the rest of the group. And I just want to say that I think it's only fair that I show you the respect as I show the people, the residents respect to say, just to come out here. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I have dedicated my life to making changes and helping other people. And everything that's been said about Javier is true. Nick Woods, I talked to him at 1:30 in the morning, true. I don't sleep very much. And so he was going, what the hell are you doing? Calling me at 1:30 in the morning, but I did it. And it's because I care, because I want to make a difference. I don't profess to have all the answers for the low housing, affordability. I can only say one thing, that we're committed to making a difference and helping the city. and with that, helping this project. This project, by now, I'm sure you've already made up your mind. It's an incredible project, and I have given so much and compromised so much because it's the right thing to do. Like Nick has been saying from the day one, we have sat down over and over again, and I said, okay, what's next? What else? What else? And every time I say, what is fair for the city, for the residents, and for the Coyotes in itself? I would love nothing more than to stay here for 30, 40 years. It's a project I think has a lot of benefit in many ways. It creates a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities. It doesn't solve all the problems. Nothing solves all the problems, nothing. But I am committed to making sure that I am an impact in solving problems when it comes to housing, affordability, and also for the community of Tempe. And that's my promise to you. And I think it's important for me to say that because if you're going to vote for this, you want to hear me. You want to not, yeah, look, I've got professionals and they do a great job, right? They're incredible people and they've got my back and they've done the right thing because I believe in this. And anything that's been said here was because I wanted this to happen. So I just want to thank every single one of you for taking the time and the countless hours that you have spent. Because I know it's been a year, almost a year and a half, that you, everybody here has spent and your staff has spent. And it's been a lot of negotiations, whether residents believe it or don't. The amount of negotiations has been incredible. But we all compromise for the good of the city and for the people and for this project. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. One thing I always say, I was in front, probably about 6 months ago, in front of the Gaming Commission, that's really scary. I'm not sure if you've been in front of the Gaming Commission, but don't, avoid it. And they said to me, there's so many things that are written about you. I go, most of them are not true. But unfortunately, I am very humble. I don't speak in public only when I have to do it. In this case, I felt very, first of all, honored, and second of all, I show you respect because you deserve the respect. You've given me the respect. And so, I've been asked a lot of things that, do I own an island in Spain? No. Am I selling the team to the Tillman and the Houston Rockets? No. The stories go on, and I can't commit all that. I can't control that. But I can show you the time that I'm here, that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And this is my legacy. It's my family's legacy. It's my legacy. I'm not a faceless corporation. I'm an individual who's worked my butt off for 44 years of my life. And I'm very proud of what we've accomplished and the change that we've made to people's lives. And that's very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morello. Appreciate it. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Morello, or? Sounds good. No, I just wanted to make sure to take you up on the Q&A offer. But it looks like everyone's okay.
I cannot comment on people.
One comment from Vice Mayor Adams. Okay.
Sure.
Yes, I do appreciate you coming up and speaking to us this evening. I think it's really important that people get to know you, and you're going to be here for a long time. So I just appreciate you coming up and talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And for the people who are new, I also want to thank you. I haven't had a chance to meet all of you, but I'm sure I will. And I've kind of stayed behind because I didn't want to influence anybody. I didn't want to do anything that I shouldn't be doing, so I kind of stayed away to my detriment. But now that hopefully when this vote is over, I'll get a chance to spend time and show you what we're all about. And I think you'll be very happy with not only myself, but my kids and the organization that I have built over 40 years speaks for itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Gutierrez.
I actually don't think that I want to add much further. I do want to summarize it. This is a transformative opportunity. It's privately financed. It's going to be a job creator. It's going to be a new tax revenues coming to the city. There's not going to be cost to Tempe taxpayers. We're not asking for any favors. The Jeeplet, as you know very well, is a structure that's utilized, and it's a chance to turn a landfill into a landmark. With that, if you want to just close it out with the video, I think it's important for several people here in the audience to see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Appreciate it.
we're here for
Questions,
questions.
if you have any.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Council, any comments or questions?
Great.
Not at the moment, no.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sit back down.
thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, so next up, we have a couple of staff presentations. I'm going to look to Tom Dunsing, our Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer.
Great, thank you. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I'll be as brief as I can. What you have before you tonight is the same presentation that we gave a week ago, except for the date on this first slide. Everything is the same. I'll go through it as quickly as we can. I would like to thank a number of staff. Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Wood rightfully referred to a lot of work that the staff has put into this. This RFP was issued in July 2021. And here we are in almost December 2022. So there's been a lot of work, and it's Sonia Blaine, Elizabeth Higgins, our economic development team of Donna Kennedy and Maria Loeffner. Mark Day has his fingers in this and is a finance professional through and through. Jeff Temelevich, Ryan Levesque, and I'm sure there's many others. And I would like to thank the council and ensure the public that you all did ask the tough questions throughout this process, and continued up until today to ask the tough questions, and it's appreciated. It keeps staff on our toes. So what I'm here to do tonight is kind of give a high-level overview of the economic benefits and the salient terms of the finances in this development agreement that's before you tonight. What you're going to see is you saw some economic benefits from the developer. Staff went out and had an independent firm, Hunden Strategic Partners, value the benefits. I can tell you they're very close. That's a good thing. The revenue projections from the developer and from our independent look are very close. That's a good thing, and it really allowed us to set the stage to negotiate a development agreement that's before you tonight. So real quick, economic impact analysis. Private capital investment of at least $1.9 million. It's going to be developed over many years. That number could go up or down, probably up in this case. But the public infrastructure on this, the city's liability is capped. Currently, in the agreement, it spells out $209 to $229 million of public infrastructure. That's roads, that's shoring the levee, that's undergrounding power lines, relocation of sewer lines, and things like that. Public infrastructure. We could not issue public financing unless it was public infrastructure. The anticipated debt service on that, just like a mortgage, principal against up to $229 million. Interest on that is about $213 million. So that's about the $240 million that you've heard multiple times tonight of the cost, or excuse me, $440 million of the cost of the public infrastructure. So real quick, economic impact, as evaluated by Hunden, $13.6 billion of this development. Revenues at the site, total revenues, $397 million. Taxes coming to Tempe, almost $200 million. And again, those figures are over 30 years. I'll dive into a little bit deeper into the tax revenues and how that's structured to be able to use a portion to repay the debt of the public infrastructure on the site, and then the portion that goes to Tempe, the city. So public benefits. What you see here, I won't go down the list. You've seen it a couple times. You can see the first two, TED naming rights and city use of the facilities. Those valuations were given to us by Hunden Strategic Partners. Again, a little bit different than the developer, but overall, it's really a pretty close valuation of the public benefits. The bonding. Again, here is a list of the public infrastructure at the site, totaling $208 million in the development agreement. The delta, the difference between the 209 and the 229 is there is a $20 million allowance for site remediation In other words, right now the current estimates are 73 million. We don't know how bad the site is. So what we've done is allowed for a $20 million allowance on the site remediation only. And, time will tell on what the cost of the remediation of that site is going to be. But we've done all our calculations on the conservative $229 million number. It could be less than that. Let me talk real quick about the land transaction. Developer will be paying a little over $50 million, 2 phases. 40 million of that will be up front. It will be non-refundable, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The land will be remediated, if approved, of course. That remediation will be bond financed. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that $40 million to proceed with the remediation right out of the chute. What will happen then is we will issue bonds to basically repay us that $40 million. So that $40 million will come back to us unrestricted. And so it'll be up to mayor and council on how they want to use those funds, but that $40 million will come back. In addition, the $10 million on the second phase, same thing. That money will come back to the city unrestricted. And then the last bullet point on here, it's just another illustration of the range of cost to remediate the site. So real quick, GIPLET, what you see here is the valuation of the GIPLET, the city of Tempe portion of the GIPLET abatement. And like Mr. Gutierrez and Mr. Wood explained, the arena, headquarters, and music facility, the request is a 30-year GIPLET abatement. And then on all the other properties, it's an 8-year GIPLET abatement. For the public, I do want to confirm what the developer did say. The other arenas and stadiums within Arizona are publicly financed. They don't pay property taxes. This, in essence, this GIPLET abatement on these essentially functions as the same way. What you see on the right is the public benefits, and I put up the list of projects supplied. Public benefits as calculated by Hunden Strategic Partners, $240 million. If you add to that the $240 million, and I'll talk a little bit about that, of developer assessments on sales at the site, you get a total public benefits of $480 million on this site. So let's get into financial terms. I'll talk very briefly about the entire project, and a lot of the focus of this discussion, a lot of the questions you've been getting is the public facilities that we're going to finance at this site and repay from revenues on this site. So I'll talk a little bit about the entire development. One of the very unique things, and I alluded to a little bit earlier, is this is a publicly funded arena. Again, most arenas, most stadiums, or pardon me, a privately funded arena. I apologize, that's a big mistake. A privately funded arena. Most arenas and stadiums in Arizona are publicly funded. In other words, there's a tax and the tax goes to pay for the facilities. This is different than that. This is privately funded. Arena, headquarters, practice facility, and the developer from the beginning has said this project doesn't work without the entire development. So I'll get to the last slide, but one of the things that gives me peace is the developer is extremely incentivized to make this development work. And so it works with all the components in addition to the arena. And they've said that from the beginning. Again, there's the public infrastructure, 209 to 229. I want to now dive into the public infrastructure at the site. What you see is a extraction of the site plan on the right, and that really is the district. And I'll get into a community facilities district and how it works. And so the primary costs of getting this site ready and the public infrastructure that we've talked about a little bit earlier is the remediation. Again, the $20 million in excess that can only go toward remediation. The infrastructure you see below, you've seen that a couple times, the transmission line relocation, levee shoring, the roadway on the site, riverbank improvements, et cetera. There's also a $10 million option termination that we have listed to be bond funded, and that's to clear the right of first refusal on this site. A little bit different look. Again, what what has been requested and what's in the development agreement is that a community facilities district be formed, a CFD. And I'm such a visual person, what you see on the right is really a visualization of the community facilities district. And what is it? A community facilities district, very common in the state of Arizona, very common to put in public infrastructure that benefits certain areas. A lot of housing developments, when they expand, they create a community facilities district to put in roads, streetlights, and things. They pay it back, so the public infrastructure that the private property owners benefit from is repaid by the private property owners. And this essentially functions the same way. So there are established boundaries, and then the proposal that is before you tonight in the development agreement is to issue community facility district bonds to basically pay for eligible public infrastructure on this site. And the repayment of these bonds are going to be from revenues generated at this site. And I'll get into, there's several different components of project revenues. I've got a really neat slide that Mark Day put together that really helps illustrate it and is very understandable, I think. And here it is. So what you see the arrows pointing to the left. Those are revenues that the city will retain. That's that $190 million or so that we sort of showed on the first slide. The arrows on the right are revenues generated at that site that will be used to pay for this public infrastructure. So I'll go down through these quickly. In blue, what we call, those are really the city taxes that are generated at the site. You've got city transaction privilege tax. That's just simply a fancy word for saying the sales tax. Bed tax, and those, the transaction privilege tax or sales tax, it's 50-50. 50% retained by the city, 50% going to repay the bonds. Bed tax, 25% to the city, 75% to be repaid from the bonds. And those are only bed taxes again, generated from the hotels proposed to be on this site. City property taxes splits a little bit different, 77-23. And the reason these percentages are a little bit different, overall, we wanted to get a fair sort of a goal of 50-50. The calculations are the developer will be paying more than the 50%, but that was kind of the goal, is the 50-50. That 50-50 really comes from that green box, that developer surcharge. And I'll talk about that in the last slide. Well, I can talk about it here. That's the up to 6% on the sales generated at the site. In other words, if the blue boxes or the taxes generated are not adequate to make the debt service payments, fund any reserves that we're going to have, or anything, are a shortfall, we go to the developer surcharge. So what the developer would do is assess this surcharge on all the sales within this site to be able to make the bond payments. That orange box at the bottom, CFD assessments, although the estimates that we've done, the estimates that the developer has done, we don't anticipate having to do CFD assessments. I really looked at that as a safety net. If the taxes on the site and the developer imposed surcharges up to 6% on the site are not enough to make the bond payments, we go through and the CFD can assess the property owners, all with the goal of making the debt service payments on the $209 to $229 million worth of bonds. It's my last slide. City protections. So when we set out as staff, really my goal, I had two goals. The first goal is to be objective, to not come up and sell a project, to just come out here and give you the salient points of the proposed agreement. Also, my second goal was to protect the city. Are there protections built in that will protect the city in case things go happen, in case revenues aren't produced? And I'll go through those really quickly. Again, I alluded to a little bit earlier, probably the biggest protection we have is the vast majority of this development is privately funded. Again, a little bit different than arenas and stadiums in Arizona. The CFD, it is a separate legal entity. The council would go through the process. It needs council action in order to form, but it functions as a completely separate legal entity. The $40 million, again, is non-refundable. The $229 million in bonds to finance this project, again, are only repaid from tax revenues generated at the site and developer-imposed surcharges at the site. Tax revenues, I talked about a little bit earlier. They're capped for the city of Tempe. You would see that in Exhibit J at $247 million. The developer projected revenues or surcharges are a minimum of $240 million, but those are not capped. So it's a little bit different. And then finally, the bonds are going to be issued in phases. We won't go out, issue $200 million in bonds when you have an unremediated site. That's not going to happen. They're going to be issued in phases. We're going to use the cash up front, the $40 million up front, to begin remediation. So if everything falls apart right at the beginning, we will have part of that site, half that site remediated at no cost to Tempe because that $40 million will go to remediate that site. So bonds will only be issued when developer financing is in place, and that is in the development agreement. And then lastly, I talked about the CFD assessments on that site. We will be assessing liens on all the property on this site, and those liens actually have priority over anything else other than property taxes, so exactly similar to how Mr. Wood explained it. So the bottom line takeaway is very secure, very secure. More than likely, when we get building on that site, you get a $600 million arena on that site. It more than covers the debt service that will be required on the entire site for this public infrastructure. And with that, Mayor, I went through as quickly as possible. Be more than happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate it. Council, any comments or questions? Vice Mayor Adams.
Tom, I just want to tell you what a great job you've done through this whole process, and I'm just glad that we got you back from Glendale. And you just thanks for all of your hard work and really crunching the numbers. And I have a lot of faith in you, in your ability to crunch the numbers and to make this package work for the residents of Tempe and the hockey team. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Sounds good. Councilmember Keating.
Thank you very much, Tom. I really appreciate the presentation, and of course, to echo Vice Mayor Adams' sentiment. You've done a fantastic job on this deal and explaining it so thoroughly, and the slides are great and everything. I have a quick question about the GIPLET. So the GIPLET is going to, essentially, it's an abatement on property tax that would be generated on the site if anything was built there, which of course it is not currently, and sounds like it won't be without substantial amount of work to be done. So so if we grant this GIPLET, the money that would go to the city no longer does because they're getting an abatement, correct?
The Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Keating, the GIPLET abatement, the only abatement long-term is arena, practice facility, and music venue. The 8-year abatement, once that expires, the property taxes, about 77% will come to the city. And again, that's after the 8 years on the private stuff. And then the other 23% will go to help repay the bonds.
Appreciate that. I'm not doing a great job at answering asking my question, as it's been a long night. I guess my question is, do the taxpayers of Tempe somehow have to make up the missing money from a GIPLET through other taxes?
Mayor, members of the council, the site right now, city owns it. It's generating zero in property taxes. Once it's developed, once the GIPLET abatements are complete, it will then generate property taxes to the city. I hope that answered your question. It's been a long night for me too.
What I'm trying to get at is, because there's a GIPLET and there's an abatement for 8 years on the arena, and then, or excuse me, 30 years on the arena and 8 years on everything else that goes there, there is money that isn't coming to the city that would be if, say, there was no GIPLET and they just did it anyway. My question is, do the taxpayers somehow then have to make up that difference of the GIPLET through other taxes?
No. Short answer is no.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Keating. Vice Mayor Adams?
Yes, as someone that worked at that facility for over a decade, I'm really glad that we're going to be moving that yard because it's not healthy for our employees. And I really appreciate the Coyotes coming forward and doing the abatement and having this property be appropriate for human living. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Councilmember Hodge?
Okay, I just want to alliterate because we do have some people on Facebook and Twitter trying to say that we are taking money for it. So I want to say it again. Is the council, is the city of Tempe going to pay anything in taxes if they don't come and show up and shop or buy a ticket at the arena? Is any taxes coming out of their pockets? Go ahead.
Yeah. Mayor, Councilmember Hodge, no. If you buy a shirt downtown, not a penny of that will go to the repayment of this debt. If you buy a shirt in the district, which is not developed yet, a portion of that and the percentages I had will go.
Can you tell everybody that did we get, as council, get $1 of this money? You know, I just want to make sure that it's known that we didn't take any money because that's what's going around right now.
Same answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. Any other council members, further comments or questions for Tom? Sounds good. Tom, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. City Manager, are there any other staff presentations this evening?
No, I think everybody already spoke who was going to speak to the entitlement piece, and I believe that it was covered all by Tom. So
okay,
yeah,
sounds
thank
good. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that said, I'm going to now go back to item 2A, to getting to the 3 votes. It seems like council members have made all the comments they want to make on these specific items, or to staff or to the developer. And so I want to get back to the actual votes. Before I start, though, I believe that Councilmember Navarro might be in the queue as well.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Wonderful.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
No, just in the queue, I just wanted to let you know I'm here. Freezing
Excellent.
in Wisconsin, but I'm ready for the vote.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Appreciate it. All right, so I will move back then to item 2A, which once again is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt a resolution authorizing a general plan projected land use map amendment from commercial to mixed use for approximately 34.4 acres, a general plan projected density map amendment from no density to high density urban core, which is more than 65 dwelling units per acre, for approximately 34.4 acres, to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment from R1 RSOD and GID RSOD, GIOD to MU4 RSOD for approximately 46.26 acres, and a planned area development overlay to establish development standards for Tempe Entertainment District located on 53 South Priest Drive, consisting of varying heights up to 129 feet, 2,100 dwelling units, which I know Mr. Wood talked about now, is up to 1995, and commercial, consisting of a multi-purpose entertainment facility, retail, restaurant, hotel, and office uses. The applicant is Snell and Wilmer. Once again, just reminding the council and everyone in the audience and those watching at home that the resolution for the general plan amendment requires at least a 2/3 city council majority for passage, and that would be at least 5 members of this governing body. So with that said, I want to see if there is a motion on item 2A.
So move.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams and seconded by Councilmember Hodge. Please vote.
Mine is not working.
Aye.
Mine is not working.
Okay. All right, let me do this really quickly then.
Do a quick refresh. It should work.
Okay, so Vice Mayor Adams voted aye, Councilmember Hodge voted aye, Councilmember Navarro also voted aye, and Councilmember Keating.
Aye.
Okay, and that item passes 7-0. Let's see now, go here. Nope. Yep, going back to 2B, yep. Quick thing here, okay. So the second vote is just Madam City Attorney, just to make sure, just one other vote, which is the item 2B.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So, and don't worry, Council, I can do a roll call vote if things are not working, so no worries on that. So once again, the last item under the section is 2B, which is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an
Mayor,
ordinance.
there's actually two votes on 2A. One was for the resolution, which we've passed. Now with the second portion is for the ordinance related to 2A.
Yes, okay. So let's go ahead and take that vote as well. Give me 1 second here. It's been moved by Vice Mayor Adams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Keating. I'll just go ahead and take a roll call vote. Councilmember Navarro? Councilmember Navarro?
Aye.
Councilmember Chin?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Hodge?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That item passes unanimously, 7-0. Now moving on to 2B. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for catching that. That last item, once again, is to hold the second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a development and disposition agreement with Bluebird Development LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, for the project known as the Tempe Entertainment District, located at the northeast corner of Priest Drive and Rio Salado Parkway in Tempe, that also establishes policy regarding referenda involving professional sports franchises. Okay. So, I guess I will look to council to see if there's a motion, and obviously if people want to make comments after the motions on the floor, they can, or we can just vote. It's been moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Vice Mayor Adams. Any comments from council? Councilmember Chin.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment about the process. We've heard a lot tonight. We've heard a lot for the last, I have for the last 5-6 months that I've been on council. I want to reassure our residents and our community stakeholders that we heard you. We heard your questions, we heard your input, and we asked your questions, and we asked our questions ad nauseum. And we looked over the details. I'd like to extend my appreciation and public thanks to some people that put a lot of work to get us here tonight. I'd like to publicly thank the following city staff: Sonia Blaine, Donna Kennedy, Carla Reese, Jeff Tamulevich, and Tom Dunsing, and their respective team members. They spent considerable time and energy to make sure that deadlines were met so that our community members had the information to review. They analyzed, they debated, and they sweat over all of the details. And they helped me. And for that, I'm forever grateful. They helped me learn a lot about a very big deal. And at every moment, their concern was about Tempe, about our community and what was best for our community. So I am so very proud to work with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chin. Councilmember Garland.
Thank you, Mayor. So earlier this summer, our council voted to move the entertainment district RFP forward. And there were 2 votes in opposition, and one of them was mine. At that time, I had several concerns about this project. One of them was financial viability, a 30-year abatement of taxes, a partnership with this particular organization, and if it was the right fit for all of our residents in Tempe. Over the past few months of doing research, getting our staff presentations, working with staff, and having a third party look into the finances of the Morello Group, I am now comfortable with all but one of my original issues. While I've still got some reservations about this being the best fit for our last large chunk of city-owned land, it makes sense for us to give the residents of Tempe the opportunity to weigh in with their vote. If their votes say this is a good fit, then I fully support it, and I will look forward to a great future with the Morello Group. If the votes say they don't, I will be working to find another solution that creates an equally compelling opportunity for our city. And that's what I'd say. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Garland. Councilmember Hodge.
Thank you. I just want to echo my council members. I want to thank the staff. I was the newest council member coming on. Councilmember Chin did had a year on me before, so we couldn't have done it without you. You guys took the energy, the time to explain, to understand, to help me to get where I'm at, and I was the farthest away from it because I was the newest. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved in it. I want to thank all of our constituents. As we said, we have listened to the questions, concerns. We brought them to the table. I want to thank the Coyotes Foundation, the Co-Coyotes Group, because every time that we have had those hard, tough questions, they have been willing to answer those questions for us, and they've given me the satisfaction that is, that if our constituents want this, I think it's going to be a great project for them. I will be fully supporting it if our constituents want it. And as like Council Garland said, if they seem not to want it, then we will be looking towards something else that we can put there. But I just have very much in good faith that our constituents of Tempe will do what's best for that area. And I just want to thank everyone. And explain why I kind of said what I said earlier. The reason why I said that is because I don't want our council, we have worked so hard, and I don't want a dim light to look on it that we took something or we didn't, we stepped across it or we didn't dot our I's across our T's. This was a hard process. This has been the hardest process. I came in the midst of it, and it's been nothing but step by step by step. And our city staff has they grabbed us by the hand and it took us step by step to get to tonight. And I'm just so honored and proud to be able to work along with these people. So thank you so much for that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilmember Hodge. Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Chin had the word of the night with ad nauseum as far as the robustness of this process. Really, the Coyotes have been sniffing around Tempe for 6 years in one form or another. And me and Councilmember Navarro were here, the whole time for that, and to see this deal go from, well, besides the
Skateboard.
Yes, is that a skateboard? Yeah, all right. To see this process move forward and how robust it was and how much staff worked on this. There was, Councilmember Chin named only a handful, but really it was kind of a citywide staff effort to get the deal to the point where it is where we are comfortable enough to have a 7-0 vote on this deal. And we're going to give it to the voters of the city of Tempe to ratify. Having been through 2 elections, but having worked on countless others in this city, I've known the city of Tempe voters to be thoughtful, analytical, passionate, and thorough. I have no doubt that the people of Tempe, once they look at this deal and they're able to read it all in black and white, and they're able to get the facts straight from the city, not from a politician, not from the Coyotes, not from some forwarded email from your crazy uncle, they'll make the best decision for the city that they live in. And I'm proud of that process, Mayor. I'm proud that the Coyotes have not only agreed to put this to a public vote, but are taking it upon themselves to refer it to the ballot. There's been a lot of talk about transparency through this process. In my, 7 years now on this body, no process has been more robust, more grueling. I can't tell you how many executive sessions we've had over this, maybe 30. How many public meetings we've had over this. It's been quite a ride. If I could sit still for more than 5 minutes outside of a city council meeting, I'd probably write a book on it someday. Instead, I'll hire a ghostwriter. I'm proud of this process. I'm proud of my colleagues. This was divisive, but we managed to get through it together. We managed to find common ground. We managed to come up with a solution that will make everybody happy. So I'm proud of everybody, the citizens of Tempe, whether you're for or against it. Thank you for participating in this process. I look forward to the election. And as I said earlier, I have no doubt that the people of Tempe will do what's best for this city, because every data point I have on that shows that they are fully capable and willing to do that. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Coyotes. Thank you, staff. Thank you, members of the public.
Thank you, Councilmember Keating. Any other comments? Vice Mayor Adams?
Ditto to what Councilmember Keating said. He took my thunder, but it's all good. I'd be glad to share it with you. So yeah, I really appreciate all the staff. I know you've worked just countless hours, and we've been through it in the trenches and till almost midnight for e-sessions over and over and over again. And I'm just happy to move this forward. So thanks to everyone that participated, and thanks to the Coyotes for agreeing to give us a chance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Adams. Councilmember Navarro?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think a lot of it's been said tonight. Councilmember Chen, she said a great deal recognizing the staff, and the staff did a tremendous job, and the Coyotes did too. It was a real process, a true process. We've been doing this for, it seems like 2 years now, trying to figure out this deal and how we can make things happen, and longer before that, I would imagine too, with other opportunities that just never worked out. But at the end of the day, I think we found the best and highest use for that piece of property, hands down. I think our community is going to be able to have an opportunity to understand it even further. And I have to tell you, the community process was tremendous. In my 14 years on council, this has been one of the most transparent processes I've seen, with questions and answers, and trying to understand the concepts of this deal and where it's at and how it benefits our community or how it might affect our community. I think all of that's there laid out. But I also want to make sure that we're thanking a former mayor, Hugh Hallman, who actually really helped us out through this process in his time. And also want to recognize other mayors, Mayor Neil Giuliano, and his support in this process too. I think really when I say that stuff, I recognize the mayors and councils of the past, what they did to make the downtown what it is today, to make the lake what it is today. The fact that we're adding a piece, in my opinion, that is going to truly transform, but not really transform, but actually just really kind of get that end of the west end of the lake, that connection that we've been dying to have. And I think this opportunity to have this deal and the placement of this deal where it's located at is going to be tremendous for families to come. And the fact that we're going to have the ability to have such quality entertainment in our city. So I just want to thank everyone. This has been a tireless process, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate everybody's time and effort into this, and it's truly noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. And I guess that leaves me. So I'll try to make this very brief, because a couple of council members talked about, getting their thunder stolen, but it's always challenging when you have to go last after the 6 of the people have talked. So I'll be brief here. So I've been sitting up here in some capacity for about 10 and a half years now, as a council member for 8 years and as mayor for almost 2.5. And I can tell you that there has never been a project that I've been involved in as a member of this governing body where there's been this much due diligence done. Literally every couch cushion looked under, every stone, turned over to see exactly what was going on, because we had a lot of questions from our residents. We as the council had questions, but a lot of our constituents and business owners also had questions, and we felt it was important as a council to make sure that we investigated all of those in a thoughtful and thorough fashion. And so I'm very proud, as a lot of our council members have said, of the work that our staff has done and some of the other folks that we brought in to help us work on this. It is a tremendously heavy lift to work on a $2.1 billion deal on, the, as Councilmember Garland talked about, the last sort of large chunk of land, 46 contiguous acres in the city. It's a tremendously heavy lift while our staff still has to do everything else from providing public safety to working on issues pertaining to unsheltered homelessness, affordable housing, transportation, and other economic development needs. But frankly, they do the job incredibly each and every day with such an amazing amount of grace. They did all of this and still performed all of their other job responsibilities and kept this city moving forward in a positive fashion each and every day. And as every one of my colleagues said, I can't thank them enough for all of their work. It really has been tremendous. I also wanted to say, too, the reality is, you know, the vote this evening will give the residents in this city an unprecedented opportunity to weigh in and let us know what their feelings are about this. I truly do believe at this point, and I've looked at this for quite some time, and as Councilmember Garland talked about, we've all had a lot of questions along the way. And I don't actually think that Javier would mind me sharing this story, because I mean, he and I met, you know, probably 2 or 3 times, and there was probably a point in our conversations where I think he looked at me and he said, because of I tend to, when I'm negotiating deals, because I've been doing this for such a long time now, I don't really show a lot of emotion when I'm actually talking to people. I'm just trying to process everything and trying to understand. I'm trying to ask thoughtful questions. And at one point, I think he said to me, you know, Mayor, what do I have to do to actually get you excited about this? And I said, well, it's not that I'm not excited. It's just that I'm trying to make sure that I'm understanding every piece and every element of the deal, because this is arguably the biggest vote I will have to take during my time sitting up here. But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to, you know, have these conversations with you and to sort of understand this on my own timeline and ask whatever questions I need to ask of you or your team, as well as members of our staff. And so I said, it was not about, you know, a lack of excitement on my end. It's just, I've seen many deals come and I've seen many deals go. And so many times I can't really get excited about something until I get kind of close to the end, sort of that, you know, 5-yard line, to unfortunately bring in another sports metaphor. So I apologize for that. But the reality is, you know, after looking at this for a long time, and looking at all the due diligence our staff and all of the outside counsel and people who've worked on this have done, my perspective really is what has been put together here is the best entertainment/arena deal that's been put together in the history of this state. When you look at talking about $2.1 billion minimum of economic investment in the city, $1.9 billion of private financing, and all of the protections that are built into this process, because that's been one of the major questions that I've been asked from many residents is, what protections do we have and what backstops do we have if something doesn't go exactly the way that you plan it? And I think Mr. Dunsing, you know, gave a great presentation, not only on the 22nd, but also tonight, about all the work that he and his team and our legal team and everyone else did to really ensure that there were protections built in for Tempe residents and taxpayers to make sure that this is a privately funded arena deal. And if for whatever reason the projections don't come back as we initially thought they would, the reality is that will be recouped by a up to 6% surcharge on the people within the Tempe Entertainment District or additional Community Facilities District assessments. It's not, if you don't go and watch a game, if you don't buy a hat or a jersey in the Tempe Entertainment District, if you don't dine at one of the restaurants, if you don't stay in the apartments, if you don't go to the hotel, you're not going to be paying for it. It's going to be entirely privately financed, and it's going to be the people who actually want to enjoy this opportunity with the Tempe Entertainment District that are going to be footing the bill for the experience. I think when you look at all of that, and with the 203 pages of materials that we've already released, including a Cliff's Notes version, and there will be more information coming out in the next few days, people will, I think, will look at this, and as they pull it apart, I think they will realize what's been structured and put together by our team here really is the best arena deal in the history of the state of Arizona. And at the end of the day, though, we trust our voters to make this decision. And when we talked about this at the November 10th meeting, about talking to Maricopa County elections, about reserving a date, the reality was the date of May 16th was something that was done for the purpose of making sure that our voters are actually going to be here to actively take part in the election. Our city elections by charter are held in March and May. So our residents are used to voting for mayor and council, school bond, you know, all types of elections, frankly, in March and May. So it's very consistent with what we've done for pretty much every election in this city's history, with the exception of one. And so the other thing is, when you talk about a May 16th election, voters basically get their ballots about 30 days before. So they actually have an opportunity to really review and study the issues and make a thoughtful decision. Kids are in school here until the end of May, so families will be here, people will be around Tempe, they will be actively involved and engaged, and will have the opportunity to really thoughtfully study this issue and make a determination that they think is in the best interest of the city, and vote the way that they like, and also inform their friends and family and fellow neighbors about what they think the right thing is. And so I think that is the right decision when it comes to public transparency. Not to mention the fact that if this does pass this evening, the reality is people are going to have from now, November 29th, all the way up until the middle of April of 2023, along with the weeks after that, to really kick the tires and take a look at the 203 pages of documents that the city's released and make that determination for yourself. But I really do believe when you take a look at it and peel back all the layers and look at everything, you're going to find something that really is a great deal on behalf of the residents of the city of Tempe. And I am truly proud of that. And I will say, as Councilmember Keating talked about before I close, I am very proud of all my colleagues in this situation. For people who have said, the only criticism that I'll address is for people who have said, well, this was already predetermined and you guys already knew what you were going to do beforehand. The fact of the matter is anyone who understands anything about the Arizona open meeting law and the inability to create quorums knows we can't get together and have conversations about these things outside of here and determine exactly which way we're going to go. And for the executive sessions that even Councilmember Keating talked about that we were a part of, there were loads of disagreements, and we all know from sitting in those rooms, there was not uniformity in terms of thought. There wasn't groupthink going on. There were lots of tough questions and even some heated debates and arguments at times about, specific aspects and details of this proposal. So the fact of the matter is, I think that this process has been done consistent with what we have always done in the city in an open, transparent, and fair way. And I do believe the residents wanted the opportunity to be able to vote on this. And the last thing I'll say too is that, one of the other things that I've heard from people saying, well, the challenge is there's going to be a lot of money potentially spent on an election. There'll be a lot of PR and a lot of marketing. Our residents, every couple of years, get an opportunity to vote not just for mayor and council, but to vote for school board, governing board members. They get to vote for legislators and Congress and U.S. Senator and president. There's a lot of money spent. There are a lot of digital ads and signs and mail pieces that are sent out on a regular basis, and voters are able to distill it down and make the decision that they think is in their best interest to move their community and, frankly, our nation forward. And I give our residents a ton of credit, and I know they have the ability to look at all of this and make the decision that they think is in the best interest of the city of Tempe. But I think this is a good deal, and I will be supporting this evening. With that said, please vote. Oh, okay. Councilmember Devar?
Aye.
Councilmember Chin?
Aye.
Councilmember Garland?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Adams?
Aye.
Councilmember Keating?
Yes.
Councilmember Hodge?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That item passes unanimously 7-0. One other quick thing I'll just say, so just as a note for everybody, inclusion of the 3 items on a future special election ballot would require Bluebird and or any other interested parties to submit the required number of qualifying petition signatures to be certified by the Maricopa County Elections Department and deemed sufficient by the Tempe City Clerk. Tempe voters would then decide whether or not the project should move forward. That election date has already been set for May 16th, 2023. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there for, once again, full transparency perspective. With that said, I want to thank everyone for hanging in there with us tonight and really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned at 9:54 p.m. Thank you.